Tonight's show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Armstrong, and this is Alex Armstrong Tonight's latest edition on the show.
The biggest economic opportunity we have is on our doorstep. We need a new special relationship with the EU because Britain's future lies with Europe and one day, back in the European Union.
By the way, Wes, the EU only grew 0.2%, so if that's our growth on our doorstep, I don't know what you think growth is. But that was Wes Streeting there, setting out his goals to rejoin the EU just moments before announcing he'll, of course, be running for PM, like, well, that's a surprise to anybody. And the Sunday Express has hit the nail on the head, splashing this: fears Labour turmoil will wreck Brexit. I've said it a billion times. Plus,
the Labour Party is just focused on its internal drama instead of what's happening in the country.
She's not wrong, is she? That's Kemi Badenoch, leader of the Conservative Party there. And of course, the Labour leadership psychodrama continues, dominating front pages once again as the Mirror leads with this puff piece: how I would change Britain. Also,
I don't think this is a racist far-right rally. This is about Great Britain being great again. This is about us taking our nation back.
that was Jennifer there. That was, honestly, I had such a good chat with her. She was brilliant. I spent my day with hundreds of thousands of you at the United Kingdom rally, finding out whether the Prime Minister's far-right labels have any truth to them, and... Yes, it's time for Eurovision again, and of course it's always more political than the last year. Thousands of people took to the streets of Vienna because what won't be an occasion for Palestinian protests to get out and protest, eh? And joining me this evening, former Met Police Detective Peter Blexley, writer and academic Dr. Lisa McKenzie, and comedian and GB News contributor Leo Kearse. Look, before we get stuck into the papers and all those inside stories you haven't heard about yet, we're going to get your news with Aaron Armstrong.
Very good evening to you. 2 minutes past 11, our top stories. Wes Streeting's confirmed he will run to replace Kier Starmer as Prime Minister in the event of a leadership contest.
We need a proper contest with the best candidates on the field, and I'll be standing.
Well, his rival Andy Burnham has been campaigning in the constituency of Makerfield alongside outgoing MP Josh Simons, whose decision to step aside has triggered a by-election. The Mayor of Greater Manchester says he'll be running for a Labour leadership bid in order to save the party. Mr Streeting criticised Sir Kier Starmer's government in his speech and set out his agenda, including an ambition to rejoin the EU.
The biggest economic opportunity we have is on our doorstep. We need a new special relationship with the EU because Britain's future lies with Europe and one day, back in the European Union.
The right-wing activist Tommy Robinson's told supporters to prepare for a Battle of Britain during a rally in central London. Scotland Yard said an estimated 60,000 people attended the Unite the Kingdom rally in Parliament Square, which called for clampdowns on migration and political change. Organisers say the numbers were far higher. Barriers were put up to separate it from the pro-Palestine Nakba Day rally, which finished in Waterloo Place. The Met Police say 43 arrests were made across both events, adding they proceeded largely without significant incident. A record 4,000 officers were deployed to deal with the gatherings at an estimated cost of £4.5 million. 8 people have been critically injured. 8 people have been injured, 4 of them critically, after a car drove into pedestrians in the city of Modena in northern Italy. Police say the driver, a man in his 30s, has been arrested and there's no further danger. He's reported to have attempted to stab a passerby who tried to stop him fleeing the scene. The mayor says the driver is an Italian national born in Bergamo who lives in the area. Authorities are working to determine whether the driver was under the influence of substances or acted deliberately. Thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters gathered outside the venue of the Eurovision Song Contest in Austria to protest against Israel's inclusion. Protesters marched through Vienna to highlight what critics have described as double standards. The organisers refused to exclude Israel, despite banning Russia following its invasion of Ukraine 4 years ago. 5 countries, Spain, the Netherlands, Ireland, Iceland and Slovenia, boycotted the event, making it the smallest since 2003. And Hearts Football Club have condemned what they've described as shameful scenes at Celtic Park after they were pipped to the Scottish League title. Home fans ran onto the pitch to celebrate after Celtic scored in stoppage time to make it 3-1, even though the full-time whistle hadn't been blown. Several Hearts players were confronted. The club says reports of serious physical and verbal abuse towards our players and staff, both on the pitch and elsewhere, are deeply disturbing. Well, the result meant a 5th title in a row for Celtic, and it meant Hearts missed out on their first title since 1960. It all led to huge celebrations in Glasgow and no doubt elsewhere in the country. Those are your latest GB News headlines. That's it for the moment. Now it is back to Alex.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Welcome to the latest edition, everybody. Let's go through the front pages for tomorrow, shall we? The Sunday Times. Britain should rejoin the EU, declares Wes Streeting. Surprise, surprise. The Telegraph. Labour turmoil will wreck Brexit. This is what you do when your party's dying, by the way, and it's pulling itself apart. You try and find one bit of common ground that lefties have, and that, of course, is dragging us back into the EU without a vote. That would be very democratic, wouldn't it? The Mirror, a nice little puff piece here for Andy Burnham. How I would change Britain. It's just ridiculous as a front page, isn't it? You're just putting out his manifesto on the front page of your newspaper. Totally bonkers. And The Observer, survival of the fittest. Of course, they're talking about Labour psychodrama. Mail on Sunday. Wes turns a screw on Burnham over Brexit. Are they setting themselves up for a fight over it? Who knows? And then The Sun, Royal Cops misconduct probe. Of course, the Met Police has issued a big statement on this, which I will read later for you. All right, I've got my panel in the room. Former Met Police detective Peter Blexley's here. Writer and academic Dr. Lisa McKenzie, and GB News contributor and comedian Leo Kearse. Leo, welcome to the show, mate. Good to see you back. Big story of the day, really, other than the United Kingdom rally, which we will talk about, by the way, is the front pages are saying that Labour wants to drag us back into the EU. You're in favour of it, are you?
Yeah, I'm in favour of a federated Europe. I don't understand why anybody wouldn't want to be the United States of Europe and have that military power and take over the world. I mean, Britain took over 1/3 of the world just on its own, so imagine what we could take over with a newly militarised Germany. That doesn't, get your whistle.
Didn't go very well last time we tried it. I don't know what you think about that.
But no, I think Europe. Brexit was a massive betrayal, not just because it wasn't implemented properly, but because, I mean, Boris promised us we'd take back control of our borders. I mean, people were worried about immigration from Eastern Europe, and then Boris turned around and was like, "Oh, you're worried about those people coming from Eastern Europe? Well, how about loads of people from the Horn of Africa? How about loads of people from Afghanistan? Like deeply alien cultures."
But can you blame Brexit for that, or is that just because the Tories at the time, and I think they probably have changed now, but at the time they said, actually, we quite believe in mass migration?
Boris was one of the architects of Brexit.
Was he?
And Boris was the Prime Minister when the Boris wave happened. That's why it's called
the biggest charlatan in British politics.
Absolutely.
He would flow whatever way the wind was blowing him at the time.
Absolutely. We'd be much better off. We'd have better control over our borders if if Brexit hadn't happened. I'm not saying, you know, Brexit, the idea was wrong. I'm just saying, you know, the way everything transpired, that's what happened.
Lisa?
Boris Johnson didn't care about anything, did he? He didn't
Doesn't even care about our birth rate now. He was celebrating our low birth rate, going, there's too many people in... It's like, well, that's the way to fix it. Less British people. Great idea, Boris.
He didn't care. He didn't care about Brexit. He just jumped on the bus, literally. That's what he was doing. That's what he was doing. He read... I mean, interestingly, he read the political room for... You know, I stand a chance by being on this side, and then became Prime Minister, and then didn't care. I mean, you know, is that what Wes Streeton is doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is politicians for you. I think this is the problem, isn't it? Peter, you know, I just think when we haven't even had a Brexit vote. It was 10 years ago. Right? We haven't even implemented Brexit properly. I feel like I understand why people... I understand what Leo's saying. I do sympathise with it. I genuinely do, because people... You're not, but I do sympathise with you. In my opinion, Peter, is that unfortunately the Tories just didn't believe in Brexit. They fundamentally believe in open borders at the time. They believed in bringing millions of people to the country. However, what Brexit was all about for me was taking back the power to say, if I want to shut my borders completely tomorrow, I can do it without the say of the EU.
Well, of course, because Cameron only announced the referendum because he was convinced he was going to win it and people would vote to stay in the European Union. And then, of course, when they didn't, he had to go, and it's been nothing but turmoil ever since. But there's just one thing I'd like to pick you up on.
Yes, please.
Earlier, you read out the lines from the Observer, front page of the Observer, but of course, there's also a large picture of Larry the cat.
There is.
And I think we've forgotten that Larry's not the only pussy in 10 Downing Street.
I don't know what to say to that, Lisa. Shall we move on to Lisa McKenzie for I have a breakdown live on
Well, Larry has lasted longer than 6 prime ministers. so he's the hardest pussy in Downing Street.
I'm sure all of our residents of Downing Street would vehemently deny this charge put against them. Yeah, you're the comedian on the panel. Maybe you can just bring us back for a second here. You know, EU. Let's go back to the EU. You've thrown me off here, unbelievably. Thrown me off my game here, mate. Right, EU. Right, let's go back to talking about this. What would you like to see if we went back to the EU? Any new red lines for Britain?
I think if we went back into the EU, I mean, I don't think we really can. We're going to have to buy our way back in. We're having to, you know, even for things like the weapons loans scheme, which you'd think Europe would welcome Britain into that scheme, since, you know, our military weaponry is, you know, what the best in the world, just about, maybe behind America's, but. You know, we have to buy our way into that scheme. They're not going to give us an easy ride. So I don't think, you know, I think now we've chosen Brexit. I think we have to stick to it. And yeah, we're just going to have to. We're gonna have to live with that. I think this idea that we can just, you know, waltz back into Europe. They're not going to. It's not going to.
Well, that's my worry, right? I mean, but that would be my worry, is that when David Cameron did all that negotiating, right? And it does take a long time to negotiate with the EU, because you're not just negotiating with Ursula von der Leyen, the unelected bureaucrat, of course, which I don't think is a good thing for anybody, having an unelected bureaucrat run your massive federation of countries. But we'd have to negotiate basically with all of them. And they are very tough. When David Cameron tried to get negotiations started, he came back with this terrible deal, which was basically in but out, right? Which would mean that they can vote to progress with the Federation of Europe, or whatever, the United States of Europe, and we would have to be out of it. We couldn't even vote for it, but we'd also sort of be in it. And it's the worst of both worlds for Britain. And I fear if we go back into the EU, we go back in on worse terms than when we left it. So what's the point at that point?
But the thing is, I mean, look what's happening in Europe now. Europe is lurching very much more to the right than Britain is.
But for how long? That's the question.
I think it's going to be a permanent thing. Like, parties in Europe are realising that, you know, it takes billions of euros worth of propaganda, billions of pounds worth of propaganda to convince everyone that the mass immigration is a great thing, and that, you know, children getting attacked is a wonderful thing. You know, the horrors of the grooming gangs are something that can be dismissed, and if anybody opposes them, then they're racist. It takes a huge amount of effort and money to maintain that lie. So now that we're seeing that disintegrate, And now we're going to see right-wing parties seize those tools of propaganda and seize the means of making policy that disseminates ideas and cultural practices out. We're going to see the whole of society shift.
You know what? I would welcome that, of course. Being, you know, my political inclinations would favour that. That Britain has taught me that you cannot underestimate the unelected bureaucracies and how powerful they are and how liberal they are. I mean, this is them driving this agenda, and how, when you look at Hungary, probably one of the most right-wing government in Europe, has voted in what I think is a faux right-wing party. I don't think it's a real right-wing party. I think it's under the guise of being right-wing. I think it will slowly become more left-wing over time. And I worry that the problem with the EU is that it's just too firmly embedded in those countries to break it apart. Lisa,
I agree.
What's your thoughts?
I agree with that. Actually, the EU is an extremely powerful, embedded institution throughout Europe.
Yeah.
And I don't think well, first, if we were to go back into the EU, we would have to we'd have to get rid of the pound. They'd make sure, you know, we'd have to take on the euro.
Yeah.
And I don't think as a country, we are impoverished. We couldn't afford the EU now. You know, and...
But they're saying that, obviously, they're saying it's good for growth.
We have our own unelected bureaucracy. It's called the civil service.
Good point. That's what I'm talking
about. Look how
about.
much it cripples our nation.
That's what I mean.
Prevents politicians from doing things.
Yeah.
So going into an even larger unelected bureaucracy is going to stifle anything that a committed politician would want to do.
Should we talk about this other story here on the front page of the Telegraph while we're there? BBC boss, the news boss, I was driven out by trans activists. This is what this news boss was saying here. A former BBC news boss has claimed she was driven out of the top job by trans activist Fran Unsworth, the director of BBC News from 2018 to 2020, said she'd been bullied out of the role by gender ideologues employed by the corporation. Speaking for the first time since leaving the BBC, she said, I would actually say it drove me out just dealing with the progressive editorial issues and the bullying around them all. It was incredibly difficult. Peter, do you think this says something about the BBC as an institution?
Well, I wouldn't allow a trans activist to drive me out of a car park, let alone the BBC. But I think it's very interesting here that she's spoken to a former colleague via a platform that's nothing to do with the BBC. I haven't read it in its entirety. I wonder if there is going to be some form of tribunal afterwards. But the whole... it's kind of symptomatic of that if you empower the loudest, the most vocal, those who really flex their muscles, be it verbally or otherwise, if you empower them, they will take more territory and take more territory.
Yeah.
And we've seen this throughout our public services and our public institutions. And this comes as absolutely no surprise to me.
Yeah, Leo, what do you make of this? Are you surprised to see the BBC boss that she was driven out by basically these progressive ideologues?
I'm not surprised to see her complaining now it's happened. You know what I mean? I think, you know, a lot of people will toe the line if they're not being driven out. As soon as they're driven out, they'll suddenly speak up and find their moral compass. But it's interesting that it's the news department. The news department should deal in fact, in things that are verifiable, things that are true. Now, things that are verifiable are things like biology, and things that aren't verifiable are things like what gender you feel like. So, you know, what, am I a woman? Because I say I'm a woman. Like, I don't know, biologically I'm a male, but apparently, according to these gender ideologues, I'm a woman because I pretend I'm a woman. So, you know, for the news department to be following some airy-fairy ideology instead of fact is pretty wild, especially when it's the BBC, the thing that everybody has to pay for and everybody's supposed to be able to trust.
And fact as laid down by a ruling from the Supreme Court.
But what she's saying, because there is a larger piece to this, and what she's saying is she explains how this happened. She explains how trans activists got into the BBC and then the method in which they used in order to, I suppose, capture the narrative, and then what they did to bully people. So she does explain how that happened. And it is very interesting because it's not only just in the BBC that this has happened, it's happened in the NHS, it's happened in the police, it's happened in all our institutions.
Yeah.
One way or another, there has been a very small group of people who have got, you know, they've got some sort of cultural power, and they have changed the whole narrative.
Yeah, but this is the thing, isn't it? It's that constant. It's the thing about liberalism is the slow creep, because everyone loves the idea of liberalism in its finest form as a political ideology. It's a lovely thing. Everyone should be free. Everyone should be able to believe what they want. Everyone should think what they want, do what they want. The government should have very little say. But where it leads to, in the end, where you do have the structures of government around it, is actually you have to pander to everyone who's got a specific problem with them. And therefore, when it comes to editorial standards, I will never forget watching BBC News back in the day, we're going back a few years ago, before I was here at GB News, and they ran a story about a single mother who was a trans woman, basically a bloke, in my opinion, a biological bloke. And I just couldn't believe it. Single mother. That was the kind of stuff that just sent me over the edge of the BBC. I thought, what are you lot doing? You're absolutely bonkers.
I remember that, and I remember why it was that bad, because it was about poverty and women.
That's right.
And it was, and it was, and
exactly
I sat there thinking, so you're talking about women in poverty and children in poverty, and you're doing that through a man.
Yeah, there you go. All right, look, let's leave that there. BBC spokesman said this. BBC News has taken a number of actions relating to our reporting of sex and gender, including updating the news style guide and sharing new guidance, making our social affairs editor responsible for this coverage. And where there have been concerns about particular stories, we have addressed them. We continually review our coverage to reflect developments such as the Supreme Court ruling. The BBC's Director of News Content, Richard Burgess, also said last November the broadcast had made mistakes in its coverage of transgender issues. Just before I forget, haven't they just gone really woke on things like Doctor Who, wasn't there? Like, I never used to watch it, but I've seen people talk, like the YouTube critics talk about it. It's like trans.
So many BBC shows are now just sort of social engineering. You know, any soap opera will just have, you know, the neighbour will be trans, the other guy will be a small boat migrant, and they'll all be friends together, and isn't everything wonderful?
Oh, yeah.
There'll be a kickback, though. There will be a kickback.
It's happening, isn't it? And this is why they're struggling now. Anyway, time now for the Great British Giveaway. It's your chance to have a spectacular summer. £76,543.21. Here's all the details.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. Just make sure you don't miss your chance to win £76,543.21 for a chance to win £76,543.21 in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, coming up, we're going to have more from tomorrow's papers, and we'll be asking the big question of the day. The biggest question, I know you've all been dying to talk about this, and it's Eurovision, of course, isn't it? Will we win for the first time since 1997? Don't make me laugh, whoever wrote that. I'll be honest, don't think I fancy our chances. That is coming up next, plus loads of inside stories. Get this, right? Really interesting column from Dan Hodges. Right, get this, before you go, don't leave me, because I know it's the Eurovision. I know you want to switch off, don't, because I'm going to tell you this story. Dan Hodges, my sources tell me Kier has decided to stand down, but he'll do it on his own terms. We'll bring that to you next as well.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV. Unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB loyalty points are here. They're our way of saying thank you for spending time with GB News. Through commenting on your say, voting in You Decide polls and shaping the debate, you can earn GB loyalty points. Unlock rewards, reach milestones and climb leaderboards. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be part of them. Get started by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/loyalty points.
Welcome back, and it's the moment you've all been waiting for. The results from Eurovision are starting to come in, and it's not for the first time the event has been overshadowed by the backlash after Israel were allowed to participate. Spain, the Netherlands, Ireland, Slovenia and Iceland all pulled out of the contest this year over that exact issue. Well, Eurovision's motto is United by Music, but is that really the case, as the contest seems to get more and more political every year? Well, I'm now joined by GB News' own entertainment reporter, Alex Davies. Alex, how are we doing, first of all? Is it good?
How are the United Kingdom doing right now?
Are we a bit like Tottenham Hotspur, right at the bottom of the table, wavering on perhaps staying up, or are we right down there in the relegation zone?
We're on a different table, to be honest with you. We're not doing amazingly. We're currently joint second from last.
Oh, dear.
1 point we've been given so far by the juries. As you said, the results are still coming in. The Ukrainians decided to give us 1 solitary point.
1 point after the billions we've given them. Unbelievable. Give us the money back.
I know, exactly. Right. We're just ahead of Lithuania, who have got nothing at the moment. But yeah, as you mentioned there about the protests that have been going on, it's been quite a mundane ceremony, to be honest with you. We all knew security was going to be incredibly heightened for this ceremony. Israel performed third on the evening. A bloke called Noah Batam did really well. They're getting quite a few votes as well. And when the public vote comes in, you know they're going to do great.
Yeah.
But it's been plain sailing. There were no protests on the night. Graham Norton, who does the commentary for the BBC, he said there was a bit of a mixed reception beforehand. Afterwards, he said it was overly positive in the arena, which is always great. It just goes to show that sometimes these protesters don't get their way.
Yeah.
And fair play to the European Broadcasting Union as well, who run the entire thing.
Yep.
5 countries said they were going to withdraw, as you were mentioned earlier: Spain, Slovenia, Ireland.
Iceland,
escape me now. But Spain is one of the big 5, one of the big financial contributors. They would have been well within their rights to say, we need to keep Spain on board. Let's get Israel out, and they stood their ground. And
that's good.
You've got to give them that.
Absolutely, totally agree with them, Alex. What went wrong for us in the Eurovision? Was it the song? Was it the singer? Was it the mixture of both? Because it was like a German. It was Eins, Zwei, Drei.
Yeah, so his name.
Very bad.
His name is Look Mum No Computer. He uses these sort of oldie schooly electrical instruments to create syntho pop tracks.
Right.
His song was called Eins, Zwei, Drei because he has a bit of an affinity with Germany, but it's come under fire. It's very sort of anti-British almost in some of the words. He's basically bored of life here, talks about wanting to move to somewhere more exciting, in this case, Germany.
How much does he want?
Well, there you go. If it was that easy, I'd be singing in German as well. And he's come under fire for that, and it's just not... You know, one of my favourite acts from this year was actually Moldova's. Their song's called Viva Moldova. They celebrate 35 years of independence. Really? It's all about Moldovan history, and we've got our act going out there basically slagging
sounds
off.
a bit like, I mean, not to bring this to politics, guys, I know you don't want to talk about politics, but it sounds a bit like the Labour front bench today all saying, we've got to go back to Europe. I mean, very, very similar theme tune there. I guess the theme for Britain is bad, but politics is still a big part of it, and you're saying that actually the show's gone quite well tonight despite all of that.
In terms of this specific protest, I mean, if you look at the voting and you look at the patterns that come out from some European countries who like to give a leg up to their neighbours when they may not be the best singers, that's not going to disappear from Eurovision. That's been in existence since the contesters began. But in terms of protests and things like that, they've been hot on it. So Israel were able to perform without any hiccups, and there were no intrusions on the stage, which I think, like it or loathe it, makes for better watching and puts the focus back on the music.
Yeah, which is what it should all be about. Lisa, what do you think about Eurovision this year? Not that you're watching it, obviously, because you're here in a much better show.
I don't really watch Eurovision. I mean, I kind of switch it on. I like the voting at the end, I've got to admit, because it's really funny. Because they do give their neighbours the points.
Yeah, very political like that.
It's very, very political. And obviously, it was brilliant in 2017 when we left Europe, and they all hated us, and they didn't give us any points.
EU vision next. Leo, what do you think of it all?
I think Eurovision is great. The reason we've had peace in Europe for so long, for so many decades, is because we've managed to resolve our differences by seeing who's got the best singer.
Or the worst singer, perhaps.
I just don't understand, why did Britain choose a German guy singing like Eins, Zwei, Drei? What is he marching off to a rap? I mean, this is a German guy who doesn't even like Britain. That's nonsensical. No wonder the country's in the state it is.
I mean, you know, I do find it all a bit bonkers. I mean, you know, back in the day, ABBA used to sing in English despite not being able to sing a word of it, and they did exceptionally well as a result of it. And of course, we had a contestant, I can't remember his name, you have to forgive me, Alex, that a runner-up a couple of years ago.
Sam Ryder.
Sam Ryder, thank you very much. Who had a brilliant song. It was very catchy, it was great, and that's all we really need. I felt, why do we get to these situations where we get these artists that are perhaps, you know, doing weird things? Don't we just want a good British pop song?
Well, I spoke to a couple of Eurovision finalists this week, and there was a guy called James Fox who represented us in 2004, and he very much pinpointed the fact that we keep following Europe. We don't have this Euro-pop tradition here and this funky...
Because we have such great...
We've got brilliant heritage of British music. Sam Ryder wasn't there as a novelty act, he was there as a singer. He only lost because it was a show of solidarity for the Ukrainian war. So we just need to get back to that, really. Why are we following everybody and trying to come up with some sort of novelty act?
Why don't we force, like, the Rolling Stones to do it?
What, at gunpoint?
The Queen's Guards can march down there.
You can get Paul McCartney still going, isn't he? Yeah, we'll get him back out.
Him and the Stones,
Big fan, Peter, of the Eurovision?
No, not in the slightest.
I thought you were wearing your tie explicitly for solidarity with Britain tonight, but of course...
This nation has created endless list of brilliant musicians that has been exported around the world, and yet we get some geezer with some homemade machine singing in German.
Yeah,
I despair.
One of our viewers, whose name I can't say on broadcast TV, I'm still traumatised by Bucks Fizz in 1981, and I was only 9. Steve says only 1 point so far. Is this an indicator of how much our European neighbours like us, or how much they dislike our music?
I think it's an indicator of how poor our music is, rather than that. We can't, if Sam Ryder was only 3 or 4 years ago, we can't look at geopolitical relations and just say they all hate us, otherwise we'd be bottom each year. We're not. We can do it. It's just making sure the BBC and the bosses behind it put somebody out there who is talented, doesn't come up with this sort of novelty, and actually, you know, puts a bit of pride into their music.
Yeah, totally agree with you.
Why
can't we send somebody that celebrates sort of British heritage?
This time last week, believe it or not, I was at a gig, watching a young upcoming band called Bloodworm. Get Bloodworm on. They win it hands down.
You heard it here first. Bloodworm, where are you? We want you for next year, all right? Sign yourself up. If not, Peter Blexy's going to hunt you down. Trust me, he's really good at finding people, that bloke. He won't let you go otherwise. All right, look, coming up, we're going to have lots more of tomorrow's papers, including this. This is a brilliant story here. The future of Kier Starmer, Dan Hodges here. He gets loads of good scoops. My sources tell me Kier has decided to stand down, but he wants to do it on his terms. Have you heard it all before, or is it going to happen? That's coming up next.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
The weather across southern Europe is looking fairly mixed tomorrow. We do have high pressure out in the Atlantic just to the west of Iberia, and that's bringing generally settled conditions across much of Spain and Portugal. Not totally dry though, a few outbreaks of rain, particularly towards the north, and there are some outbreaks of rain further east, particularly around parts of Croatia and Greece, and some of this could be heavy at times. But the fine weather looks to be more dominant as we go into next week. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. And we're continuing to see a band of rain push across the country over the next few hours, with scattered showers following. As a result, it won't be as cold tonight. A westerly breeze developing from the Atlantic. This weather system just slowly pushing its way eastwards over the coming hours. So as we head towards the evening and overnight, outbreaks of rain across eastern areas, most persistent across Scotland into the early hours. Elsewhere, showers following, but also some clear spells. Quite blustery across Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, and overall temperatures with more cloud around them. Recent nights holding up around 6 or 7 degrees, perhaps even double figures across the southeast, but it does mean a bit of a cloudy start here. Also a cloudy start Sunday morning across much of Scotland, with outbreaks of rain pushing northward. Some glimmers of sunshine through the central belt, but also a scattering of heavy and blustery showers. A mixture of sunshine and showers for Northern Ireland to begin the morning. Very similar across Northern England, but plenty of sunshine as well, and lots of sunshine across the rest of England and Wales and too, but we'll see some hazy sunshine and some showers across western areas, and also fairly cloudy across the far southeast first thing as rain slowly clears. Through the day we'll see frequent showers starting to build in from the west. Some of these will be heavy at times, possibly thundery too, with some hail, but there'll be spells of sunshine in between the showers, the best of these across parts of central and eastern England, and temperatures here reaching around 16 or 17 Celsius, still fresh across the northwest. Chilly start on Monday morning, bands of showery rain pushing eastwards across England and Wales, but some sunny spells for Northern Ireland and Scotland, and then showers developing later, ahead of the next weather system moving in by the end of the day to bring some heavy rain for Monday night and into Tuesday, but then from Wednesday onwards temperatures start to rise.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, before I give you this inside scoop here about whether Kier Starmer's decided to stand down and bow out with whatever grace he's got left, I have got a special guest here, thanks to airplane malfunctioning. That is Ben Leo. He's here in the studio live. Ben, just quickly tell us what happened, why you're here and you're not in DC.
I was meant to fly to DC today at midday. I would have been there in time for the show tonight. And first of all, the air bridge, so you know the walkway which connects the terminal to the plane, that malfunctioned and wouldn't disconnect. So we sat there for an hour. Finally, they sorted it. We're taxiing towards the runway, and I thought, well, I'm going to be a bit late, but at least I'll make the show with an hour to go. And suddenly, the evacuation slides that pop out the side of the plane, one of the slides popped out. And pop! And the fire service had to come. We were sat there for 2 hours on the tarmac at Heathrow, so I thought, I can't do this. I'm going to miss the show. So here I am. I'm in London doing
He's
the show.
made it anyway. I mean, what a trooper for doing all of that and still coming in to do your show tonight. Talking of which, what are you going to be talking about?
Lots going on. President Trump, the administration, has been taking out jihadis left, right and centre since they took power in, I'm sure you'll like this, Peter, since they took power in 2025, including the second-in-command of ISIS. Spoke to Trump's head of counter-terror, Seb Gorka, earlier today. He was describing the Situation Room, where he was sat with President Trump as they were watching this mission unfold in real time. He said they got pizzas in, sodas and stuff, and were watching it all unfold, and they took out the jihadi in real time, so that was fun.
With great help from the Nigerians,
he gave great credit to the Nigerian military as well. So these are jihadis persecuting Christians, going on the onslaught against Christians.
Oh, so where was this attack?
In Nigeria.
It was in Nigeria. Oh, wow. Fantastic. This is the thing, mate. We don't know what's happening. This is why this show's so important, because we're just completely consumed by the psychodrama of Westminster.
Yeah, and people would say, well, why should the UK or even Americans care that the special forces in America are taking out jihadis in Nigeria? Why are you getting involved in Nigeria? But incidents like Iran, Venezuela, the conversation around Greenland, all these things aren't isolated incidents of Trump madness, just being a nutter. It's all part of the same plan, getting dominance again over the Western Hemisphere, kicking China out, getting the jihadis out and so on. So there is method behind the madness.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of our audience will absolutely support this action for sure. Ben, I'd love for you to stick around, because I'd like for you to talk about this inside story we've got here. This is really fascinating. Now, a lot of you I know what you're going to tell me, because last Sunday I brought you all here to say, I've got an inside scoop here. Kier Starmer's going to stand down this week, right? That was what I told you, and I do apologise because he didn't do it. However, we do have some clarity, potentially, as to why he didn't go, because very reliable sources were saying it's happening. He's going tonight. Andrew Marr going tomorrow, whatever. Loads of others, big journalists. Dan Hodges here says that Kier Starmer has told close friends he's going to stand down as Prime Minister, and he wants to set out an orderly timetable for his departure. A member of the Cabinet's told Dan Hodges yesterday afternoon, Kier understands the political reality. He realises the current chaos is unsustainable. He simply wants to be able to do it in a dignified way, and a manner of his own choosing. He will set out a timetable. Apparently, Ben, the reason why I didn't go last week is because Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, was briefing the press that she had been telling the Prime Minister that he was going to go, and that she was the one to kind of push him off the edge. And that's sent him furious, apparently.
I don't trust any of these people. The Labour government, I think the way they've behaved since particularly the local elections has been despicable. really vile behaviour from people who, even those on the other side of the argument, would say, well, I disagree with them politically, but they are, you know, decent human beings. I think what Kier Starmer and David Lammy particularly have done in recent days is really unforgivable, tarnishing people as thugs and far right, going back to the march today. And what, for me, their arrogance is breathtaking. I put on X today, not once have they sat and had a self-inquiry, maybe a post-mortem about the elections and said to themselves, something's going on here which we're not understanding. We don't get it. What is it? Let's work it out between ourselves. Instead, they've doubled down on this. Well, you lot are just thick racists. You lot are a bunch of thugs. And again today, they did it with the United Kingdom march. Not once have they considered, why are so many people gathering en masse, ordinary people who maybe weren't engaged politically before, maybe didn't watch the news, they just feel something's not quite right with the direction of travel. Not once have they sat down and said, why are so many thousands of people gathering in London today? Instead, David Lammy goes on X and calls it whatever he said, saying it's a march of hate and division. Starmer did the same. Lots of sort of left-wing commentators on X as well doing the same. The arrogance, not once have they sat there and thought, is it us that's the problem? Are we getting it wrong?
That's the arrogance and the inaccuracy of it all.
Well, that's exactly what happened after the election. What they should have done is go, right, OK, what's happening in the country? What don't we know? But they didn't. They just went, right, we're going into...
I mean, I've got to play devil's advocate a little bit here for a bit of balance. Is it the case, Leo, that maybe we're all politically biased in one direction and actually that Kier Starmer is just playing into his base, which is what perhaps a right-wing Prime Minister would do?
Yeah, I mean, we might be in a bit of our own bubble, but Labour are definitely in their own bubble as well. And I think Kier Starmer is, with these comments about the rally, he's playing not to the wider public, not to win an election, but to win, to keep power inside the Labour Party. He's playing to the Labour backbenchers who love the fact that, you know, somebody's you know, banning speakers, banning elected politicians from entering the UK, even though it reveals that, you know, oh, actually the politicians can close the borders when they want to. So it means that when they're letting people in who kill Rhiannon White, when they're letting people in who attack children, that's deliberate. And also a lot of the things he was accusing people of being far right for, he was saying a few months ago, he was saying we need to stop the boats. You know, he was saying these things. He was saying we might become an island of strangers. Then suddenly he decides it's far right to say that.
Backtrack. Ben, any last thoughts from you, then we've got to move on?
No, just the Labour government, as I said, they are so arrogant and self-indulgent. They are on to an absolute loser in a couple of years' time. And Leo says maybe, are they living in a bubble? Are we in a bubble? If I got smashed at an election in the fashion of the Labour, and then I saw tens of thousands of those people taking to the streets, I would maybe for a day sit there with a cup of tea and think, maybe we're not doing something particularly right.
Unbelievable stuff. Really, really is. Right, look, coming up, stay tuned for Ben Leo in just 15 minutes' time indeed. Coming up on tomorrow's pages, Nigel Farage is going to criticise Andy Burnham. Guess what? Over his record on grooming gangs as the Makerfield by-election is getting underway. That's next.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
I've got a world exclusive for you. There's a very exciting new talent on the London stage. We've got a little exclusive clip for you here.
Baby share.
OK, so we saw a scene in a bar with not much dialogue. What was that then?
That was me.
What?
That was me, Michael.
What was
that was me strolling onto stage. I think they've got some pictures of me in costume and everything. There you go.
Oh, now we have a picture.
Yeah,
of you,
so this
recognisably.
That was me. Very exciting new talent. So this is the Park Theatre up in North London, and again, this is more of my love of local theatres, regional theatres, community theatres.
Yes.
I'd had a lovely chat with Jez Bond, who is the founder, director and writer of this show. they need 600,000 a year on top of box office takings just to break even. So every year they do this whodunit. And the idea is, apart from me, they have Ian McKellen doing the voiceover, they have Emma Thompson, Gillian Anderson, Julian Clary, Hugh Bonneville, Benedict Cumberbatch. All these people come in for one night, they turn up, they're literally put into they play the sheriff in this mad spoof whodunit. They get an earpiece, and then literally, so that's it, they open the fake saloon doors, come on stage, I walked to the bar and ordered a baby sham with my amazing Westerns accent. And then the rest of the play, you have the earpiece in. So I went and did about an hour, and I was the first person they had on the stage to see how it all works. And it was fascinating.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you on GBNews, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. I'm sure you're going to be devastated to hear that Britain has indeed, the United Kingdom has finished last place in the Eurovision, and that's all the mention I need to give it because it was rubbish, wasn't it? Let's move on to something more interesting. The Telegraph is reporting this. Nigel Farage will criticise Andy Burnham over his record on grooming gangs as the Makerfield by-election gets underway. Reform UK leader has accused Mr Burnham of failing victims, suggesting that this would be a key message in the party's campaign for Greater Manchester, the seat there, of course, which will be contested by Mr Burnham for Labour. It comes after the Manchester police whistleblower Maggie Oliver, who exposed the Rochdale cover-up, said that Mr Burnham, the Greater Manchester mayor, had fallen at the final hurdle by glossing over the scale of ongoing abuse and exploitation. Peter, is that a fair accusation to put against the mayor?
The remarkable Maggie Oliver knows more about this than anybody, and she's been very vocal in recent years about unhesitating criticism of Burnham. Maggie also put out a statement this week saying that she wouldn't run because she's got so much work to do at her charity. But I'm sure that if Maggie had been Burnham's opponent, Burnham would not have been heading for the Houses of Parliament.
Yeah, I have spoken to Maggie many times because she's also spoke to me about this very issue, and she's always maintained she will never stand in politics. She thinks it's all a bunch of waste of time. But I think she's right and says it should be better for victims outside of it. Lisa, Burnham's record on grooming gangs, fair accusation or a fair campaign by Reform UK there?
No, I think it's a fair campaign. I mean, you know, or nothing's lost in love and war, isn't it? And this is politics. So, and actually, the grooming gang scandal in Greater Manchester is an area that he was very weak on. Maggie Oliver, I watched the interview with her, and she said that the Oldham report was a whitewash, and it was on him, really. She said he'd done some good things. He hadn't been too bad on sort of now, but going back to the Oldham stuff, he was awful.
But it's on the Labour Party as a whole.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Wherever you look, wherever they've ruled, wherever these scandals have applied, they've done everything they can to shut down inquiry after inquiry.
And what they do is they say they're very prolific at saying, oh, we did terrible things in the past. Terrible things were done in the past, but then completely obfuscating and minimising anything that could be going on now. It's still going on. But they don't want to admit it because that would implicate them. That would be their entire structure being taken apart.
Well, I mean, the Labour Party would, of course, again, a bit of balance as devil's advocate, the Labour Party would argue they're the only party who's done anything on grooming gangs, particularly with this national inquiry. What would you say to that, Lisa?
Well, they haven't, because we haven't got the inquiry yet. And, you know, until the inquiry happens, until we know the terms of the inquiry, then they've done nothing.
And also, they're only talking tough on grooming gangs now because they've lost that block as a vote. In 2019, 85% of British Muslims voted for Jeremy Corbyn. Now they've got the numbers to elect their own specific candidates, their sectarian candidates. So Labour don't need to worry about appeasing anybody in that community anymore.
But they still do, Peter. They still do, unfortunately.
Yeah, and victims suffer.
Yeah.
It's absolutely disgraceful. How can anybody want to play politics in front of the welfare of girls and women. Who on earth would ever do that? What kind of scumbag are you that you would put your own political position, career in front of getting the right thing done and stopping it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave you with this thought. I mean, Kier Starmer's had a lot of criticism thrown at him for his role in it as head of the CPS. Burnham, if he walks into the Labour leadership, is going to have exactly the same issue to face. And they've got that grooming gangs inquiry, which I hope is still going ahead. It better be, for their own sake. And that won't be very good for Burnham, I don't think. I'm sure he would disagree. Should we go through front pages just one more time before we go? The Sunday Times. Britain should rejoin the EU, declares Streeting. The Telegraph. Labour rivals want to rejoin the EU. The Express fears Labour turmoil will wreck Brexit. Surprise, surprise there. The Mirror. Beautiful little puff piece they've done here on a smirking Andy Burnham there on the front page. It looks like something out of, I don't know, Power Rangers, that big face just to pop up there. I don't know. How I Changed Britain, apparently. Observer. Survival of the fittest. Mail on Sunday. Wes turns a screw on Burnham over Brexit. And The Sun. Royal Cup's misconduct probe. Of course, the Met Police have issued a statement saying they will look into this and there will be an investigation locally, concluded by the Met. Look, that's what we've got time for here. Of course, I'll be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. with a bunch more news for you. I hope you've enjoyed the show. But don't go anywhere, because up next is The Late Show Live by the one and only Ben Leo.
Thank you. Live from London just for this evening, I'll give you my take on today's Unite the Kingdom march. I think it was a day for Great Britain to be proud of, and a day for the Labour government, Kier Starmer, David Lammy and Sadiq Khan to have some shame over, actually, and some embarrassment. I'll give you my take on that. Also, is surrogacy... Is it immoral? Is it unlawful? Should it be unlawful in the United States? There's a massive court case taking place in the US on that front at the moment. I'll give you all that and more after the break. See you there.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. And we're continuing to see a band of rain push across the country over the next few hours, with scattered showers following. As a result, it won't be as cold tonight. A westerly breeze developing from the Atlantic. This weather system just slowly pushing its way eastwards over the coming hours. So as we head towards the evening and overnight, outbreaks of rain across eastern areas, most persistent across Scotland into the early hours. Elsewhere, showers following, but also some clear spells. Quite blustery across Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, and overall temperatures with more cloud around them. Recent nights holding up around 6 or 7 degrees, perhaps even double figures across the southeast, but it does mean a bit of a cloudy start here. Also a cloudy start Sunday morning across much of Scotland, with outbreaks of rain pushing northward. Some glimmers of sunshine through the central belt, but also a scattering of heavy and blustery showers. A mixture of sunshine and showers for Northern Ireland to begin the morning. Very similar across Northern England, but plenty of sunshine as well, and lots of sunshine across the rest of England and Wales and too, but we'll see some hazy sunshine and some showers across western areas, and also fairly cloudy across the far southeast first thing as rain slowly clears. Through the day we'll see frequent showers starting to build in from the west. Some of these will be heavy at times, possibly thundery too, with some hail, but there'll be spells of sunshine in between the showers, the best of these across parts of central and eastern England, and temperatures here reaching around 16 or 17 Celsius, still fresh across the northwest. Chilly start on Monday morning, bands of showery rain pushing eastwards across England and Wales, but some sunny spells for Northern Ireland and Scotland, and then showers developing later, ahead of the next weather system moving in by the end of the day to bring some heavy rain for Monday night and into Tuesday, but then from Wednesday onwards temperatures start to rise.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think GB News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, we saw you on television. I say, oh yes, on what? On GB News.
Hello, are you the famous Sue? The whole crew hit me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GB News family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here, right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again.
You just tuned in. Where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Hello, good morning. Live from London just for tonight, this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America. Britain fights back. So Kier Starmer and David Lammy brands the Unite the Kingdom rally divisive and frightening, but are they deliberately smearing patriotism?
Here to try and get the government to listen to the people, because that's all we want. That's all we want. We want people to listen to the people.
Elsewhere tonight, target destroyed. President Trump announces one of ISIS's most senior leaders has been killed in a US-led strike in Africa. Do not miss an exclusive interview with the US Senior Director for Counter-terrorism, Seb Gorka.
Exactly when it was required, certain munitions were deployed, certain assets were launched, and just like a fine Swiss clock, It was executed in a way that no other country could do.
Also breaking tonight, the Tories plan to force a vote on drilling in the North Sea. Has Kemi Badenoch been listening to America's Commander-in-Chief?
That if you don't change your energy thing and get away from windmills and go back to oil and gas, and you have something that's no other country has. Very few countries have anything like it, the North Sea.
Asylum deception. An Albanian triple murderer granted asylum in the UK, yes, that's right, while on the run, has been finally apprehended in America. And is surrogacy slavery? Florida's Attorney General has intervened in a contentious surrogacy dispute, arguing the practice may violate the American Constitution. I'm Ben Leo, and this is The Late Show Live. Hello, good morning. Hope you're well. Happy Saturday night. Hope you've had a good weekend so far. Welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me this evening in London is my panel of political commentator Charlie Rowley, Labour councillor Stuart Fawcett and the journalist Jack Hadfield. And I'm sorry to say I'm missing these boys tonight in Washington, D.C. Political commentator Stephen Kent and the Democrat strategist Mally Smith. Hello, lads. Thank you for your company. I'm sorry I'm not there. I'll explain later. Right,
see you, Ben.
Let's kick off this hour with a GB News alert. Kier Starmer, David Lammy and this Labour government have behaved in the most despicable fashion since getting battered at the local elections. Instead of asking themselves how that happened and why thousands of people protested all across London today in a show of patriotism, they doubled down. Hours before today's Unite the Kingdom march, Deputy PM David Lammy posted on X, "These march organisers are spreading hatred and division. They do not reflect the Britain I'm proud of." Well, the Prime Minister, of course, he weighed in too. He said on X, "I know that many people across the country will understandably be frightened by what they may see today. Muslim and ethnic minority communities concerned by the Unite the Kingdom march." Let me tell you tonight, Starmer and Lammy, in my opinion, outright lied today. They lied to the British public. They spoke of hatred and division. The PM says ethnic minorities would be frightened at what they saw. Not for the first time. They were gaslighting the great British public.
I'm furious because I'm an ex-military. I was in the RAF for 12 years. I served my country. I'm very proud of my flag. I wear my flag proudly because I was born here in this country and my parents came over in the 60s and worked hard.
Starmer and Lammy were repeating a series of smears in the build-up to and during today's march. Permanently online loser Harry Eccles posted on X, "Petrifying displays of white supremacy. Since when did the UK get infected with Christo-fascism? This isn't the USA." Yeah, it's not the USA, but maybe we should start taking tips from our friends across the pond. Just an idea. They're in the process of fixing their country after it was completely wrecked by Liberals. And to describe a show of religious faith as an infection of Christo-fascism is nothing less than disgusting. Here's one of the Christian fascists Harry Eccles is surely talking about.
From Nottingham, and I stand for this cross, which is Christianity, and I stand for togetherness, and I stand for British values because I'm British.
Wow, what a fascist. Absolutely vile stuff. Well, at the same time as the Unite the Kingdom march today, counter-protesters held a pro-Palestine march, which, if you follow the narrative of the lying left-wing propagandists, surely that would be full of peace and love. And if you didn't hear what they were saying there, they were shouting, "Shoot him in the neck like Charlie Kirk." But hang on a minute. This wasn't what Sadiq Khan was promising on X today. He wrote, "Hate is loud, love is louder." We'll never be divided, Khan wrote. Well, let me tell you now, the only division taking place today was at the hands of Kier Starmer, David Lammy, Sadiq Khan, and all their fabrication about what took place on the streets of London today, and indeed all their followers as well. More than 400 arrests at last year's Notting Hill Carnival. More than 400. Multiple stabbings as well, fatalities over the years. More than 500 at previous Palestinian marches. And latest figures from the Met today at United Kingdom, just 11 arrests out of tens of thousands of people. So what have we learned from today? Well, first of all, this Labour government thinks you at home are utterly stupid. They think we're stupid as well. They think everybody, most of the electorate, are very thick. And they've proven themselves, more pertinently, they've proven themselves arrogant beyond belief. Not once do these people, the government, Kier Starmer, David Lammy, not once have they asked themselves why Britons feel they need to take to the streets of Britain today and protest, or, indeed, why they were wiped out at the ballot box. No inquisition, no curiosity, no self-reflection, just name-calling. Their self-indulgence has finished them. And maybe they should have taken heed of Trevor Phillips' advice last year after the first Unite the Kingdom rally.
The most alarming aspect of the event was just how normal the vast majority of the marches were. I spent an hour or two amongst them, and my own impression was that they were mostly the sort of people you'd meet in a country pub or in half-time queue for the loo at football or at a concert. There was a sprinkling of black and brown faces, and the event was brought to a close by a gospel group singing Jerusalem. All that must worry the traditional mass parties, Labour and Conservatives, now polling at less than 40% between them. They're draining support to parties like Reform and the Greens. And yet, a man recently out of jail, condemned as an extremist thug by most mainstream media outlets, can rally a demo the size of the entire population of Cambridge or Blackpool. A feat you couldn't imagine either Sir Kier Starmer or Kemi Badenoch pulling off anytime soon.
Well, joining me in London tonight is my panel, Jack Hadfield, Charlie Rowley and Stuart Fawcett. Good evening, chaps. Welcome along. Jack, I'll start with you. I have gone as far tonight as saying that Starmer, Lammy, Sadiq Khan, I'm calling them liars because they are lying about what we saw today.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, you know, they were saying that, oh, hate doesn't win, love does win. Well, I think there's a lot of love and hate across the political spectrum. I don't think it's one thing that that the right has or the left doesn't have. And, you know, there are lots of people at the United Kingdom rally today who are there because they love their country. You know, they are despairing at what it has become. And, of course, there are so many, as we saw over at the pro-Palestine march, again, who want their political opponents executed in cold blood. Not only do they want that, they celebrate it whenever it happens. But always the establishment seems to focus on the case of the evil far right. Those are the people who are violent. So I know the Met Police, for example, briefed the protesters not to come out with any slogans on their placards that may be considered offensive. And it's like, well, hang on. when did they do that before any of the Palestine rallies, which I know people like Swella Braverman, etc., have called hate marches? And again, when I've covered so many of these protests on the right and on the left, the only time that I see these real calls for, you know, utter political violence has been from left-wing protesters, again, as we've had on camera today.
I just wonder as well, what do these people, when it comes to it, call the actual far right? You see some stories sometimes, it's a minority, but you see stories of maybe neo-Nazis plotting attacks and so on. What do they call, Stuart, the actual far right when it comes to comparing them against the... Look, these people on screen today, Union Jack flags, St George's crosses, some Israel flags there as well. How do they dare call them far right?
I think we need a bit of clarity here on where these fingers are being pointed. I think most rational people will see at these marches today people who are going along for reasons where they want to demonstrate, because we are free and fair democracy. And these marches have been facilitated by the Metropolitan Police to go ahead safely. And for the most part, I believe they have done both of those. Now, there are people on different sides of the political spectrum and none who will have their own opinions on what is being said there. But I think what's really important to be noted is that any particular movement in this country or in the Western world can suffer insurgency from extremism. Now, whether that's being the motivation for it to begin with or it can be overtaken by, and I think that's where the particular focus is on anti-extremist measures, specifically on both sides of these marches today that's actually coming to the fore now, which you're hearing about.
But it's the two-tier description. We didn't. OK, fine. Let's say, for argument's sake, 5% of the people attending this rally today do have some genuine far-right connections. Fine. What about the Palestinian marches? Hang on, what about the Palestinian marches? We've not heard this sort of rhetoric or preparation before ahead of Palestine marches from David Lammy or anybody else.
Well, Palestine Action was actually made a terrorist organisation, prescribed as a terrorist organisation, and at the pro-Palestine march today, it's the first time that facial recognition cameras are being introduced in order to make sure these people who are making these calls are being held accountable for the things that they say.
Do you think this was far-right today, this rally?
This particular one, I don't believe the vast majority of people on this were far-right people.
Charlie,
but as you said, Ben, we can't rule out that some extremists were there trying to galvanise support for their own.
Fine,
okay,
but does that require the Prime Minister to take to social media recording a plush video saying that this march is organised by those who want to divide people, it's going to be attended by thugs and racists? Does that require that sort of intervention? David Lammy doing the same?
I think it's politics, and they're trying to appeal to their particular proportion of the vote to say we're taking this on.
OK,
and
Charlie,
that's what they're doing.
So that's politics. As a political advisor, as I said in the introduction there, they haven't understood what's happened, not today alone, but at the ballot box as well at the elections. And they've not sat there for a second and thought, what are we getting wrong, guys? Something's not going quite right.
Yeah, well, Stuart gets it. Because it is politics when you're in a political party that's in turmoil, that's lost a terrible set of local elections on the back and losing it to Reform. UK have been talking about this for some time. They are the ones that are ahead of the polls, gaining momentum because of the issues that people at this particular rally, United Kingdom, care about. The people at this rally are not far right. Reform voters are not far right. But when you have a leadership speculative race where you have to appeal to your base, which is hard left in terms of the Labour Party, you know, it will be a far left candidate that wins the Labour leadership. That is who you need to appeal to at the minute. That is the psychodrama that this country is going through. It is purely through the prism of a Labour Party.
They've just been battered at the local elections.
Absolutely.
They're still trying to appeal to the same old message and the same old people. They were just wiped out at the locals. This is my point. Do they not sit there and think, we're trying to appeal to a very small sect of the electorate here who are voting for us, Reform, the Tories, whoever, are doing much better than we are?
But that's also... You're absolutely right. And that's why I think Stuart gets it. I mean, he said it in his first answer, but
It's like playing a poker hand when you know you've lost and playing all the way to the river and going all in. Who are you kidding?
Right. And then you need to sort of back that up with facts as well. I've no doubt that there'll be people... I'm not huge on social media. You might know that. People might know that. But, you know... I'm sure you will find some far-right whataboutery at this United Kingdom march. You will find, as we have done week after week, because they've been going on week after week in those protests for pro-Palestinian marches, you will find the language that's used, which is anti-Semitic. But you've got to look at then the state, and you've got to look at what MI5 say, the Secret Intelligence Service, and what Prevent say, where the number one issue of extremism in this country is on the far left. It's not far right. When you see the number one hate crime going through the roof, it's anti-Semitism. It's not Islamophobia or any other kind of hate crime. The government have to then listen to that rather than come out with these political platitudes as they have on X today.
Don't speak too much sense, Charlie. You have a knock at the door from tomorrow. Let's get a word from the boys in DC, Stephen Kent and Mally Smith. Good evening, lads. Thank you for your company. Apologies I'm not there with you tonight. Stephen, I'll go to you first. Your take on what we saw today in London, particularly from your bird's eye view across the pond.
Sure. Well, it all looked very familiar to me. I'm a product of the 2008 to 2010 Tea Party movement here in the United States. This was sort of the initial backlash to the presidency of Barack Obama, where Americans and middle-of-the-road folks and conservatives started donning Founding Fathers costumes and protesting all across the country in droves under the accusation by the mainstream media that they were doing it because they were racist or angry about a black president, when in reality people were just concerned about the future of the country during a very heated debate over socialized medicine in the United States. People concerned about policy and what our country is actually about. And I was watching videos all day and watching the live stream of this event going on in London, and it was frankly the exact same. You even had Glenn Beck there, one of our most popular radio broadcasters, who was a major Tea Party figure, giving the exact same speech that he would have given us to your people. And it was just full of normies and Gen X rock bands, and it was tame and orderly. It's shocking to me how your prime minister talks about your people, his supposed neighbors. He seems to really hate and distrust the people of Britain.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're wrong there. Mali, let's get a view from the left of proceedings. Actually, maybe you'll have a more common sense opinion on it. What's your take on what we saw today?
Well, I got to agree with Stephen. It did give me a lot of Tea Party vibes. Unfortunately, though, for Kier Starmer, I don't think it's going to be as lucky for him because Obama actually went on to go win re-election in 2012. I think Kier Starmer himself is, unfortunately for him, destined to eventually be booted, and I think that would be the best thing for Labour. But yeah, this shows there's discontent within the UK. I think there's discontent in the US, and there's broadly similar issues. For the UK, it's mostly immigration. For the US, it's mostly the economy. But I'm looking forward to next No King's Day protests, which were far larger than the protests that you guys have focused on here to get equal attention, Ben, because you guys are talking about this as such an uprising, but the No Kings protests in the US had a lot more people than this one.
The question at the end of the day, though, is what translates into a political outcome, you know, and this is something where you'll have to educate me on how things go in the United Kingdom, which is you have all of these people, you have all of this energy, and it led to a massive midterms disruption in 2010 for the Barack Obama administration. But what is this going to amount to in the UK? What I've seen today is at least a doubling of the odds on Kalshi and Polymarket that Kier Starmer is going to be out by July 1. Just a pretty dramatic reaction to the events of the day. And I think that's because Kier Starmer has egg on his face from besmirching his own country in that op-ed that he published
over
at the LBC, which was just an egregious op-ed, completely vacuous of any substance, in which he attacked these everyday, normal people who just want to see their country restored to something like they remember it being in their childhoods.
Yeah, Stephen, you say you think he'll have egg on his face. I don't think he cares, which goes back to my previous point. I think he's so arrogant and blind to public perception of him. I really don't think he gives two hoots. That the column you mentioned today, written for LBC, says, "The marches in London today will frighten many, but we must fight for the spirit of Britain." Who are they frightening? I don't see anybody frightened on those marches today. I saw people of all colours, races and backgrounds.
Even more than that, you know, he says in that op-ed that the UK is not defined by race or religion or homogeneity of any kind, that, you know, it just does, people don't have to feel like they actually have any connection to their neighbors. He just says that Britain is defined by its values. And then he never says what those values are. In his worldview, values are just kindness and the coexist bumper sticker, without any sort of theory about what it takes to actually make people come together as a country and have something in common. You know, I don't think most Americans even know that the cross in the middle of the UK flag is the St. George's Cross, that there actually is a rich history of Christian thought and theology that goes into the creation of your wonderful country. It's in the background, but he will never say that.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that. Stuart?
I just want to come in on that one about people being scared in the City of London today. I think it's just something really important to clear up here, which is that I don't think people are scared that there are protests. I think there are people in London who are concerned about a segment of each one of those protests because they can't identify those particular extremists from within them, essentially. And I think people are concerned about who they are and what it is. So if you're Jewish and you come across a Palestine protest, you're understandably going to be quite concerned, considering what some of the chants are that are going to be there. Now, if there are people who are attending the United Kingdom rally who are saying other things potentially critical of ethnic minorities,
like
because
what?
there could
What
have
did you
been
see
some
today?
there. I haven't been there. Someone's just saying.
Did you see any online?
But you said I know, but you said earlier I haven't seen anyone that's scared, right? Just because I haven't seen them doesn't mean they don't exist.
Well, no,
and I just want to add that balance there.
You can't sit there and say, well, there's anti-Semitic chants calling for the extermination of the Jewish state in Israel and this and that. And also, that's proven. We've seen it for years on end. And then say, oh, there might be some similar counterpart stuff from a rally.
Of course.
I've not seen it. You've not seen it.
No,
I've not seen it.
I'm saying, but you've said, what you said earlier was, I don't know anyone who's been scared. I don't know, but that doesn't mean they aren't there. And that if people are genuinely coming forward, clearly there's been some concern. This has been a huge policing operation today with good reason. Yeah. Why is that? And that's the question I would ask in my mind. I have actually heard from people today who said they've been concerned because of this. Now, that's not for me to question. Yeah, that's not for me to question. There was people at an event today who were from ethnic minorities.
What did they tell you?
They were concerned that they felt, how can I put it? They felt intimidated by this gathering of people.
Okay.
I don't think they had the generalisation that all of these people were particularly against them. That wasn't the point of view they were coming from. But they had concerns.
But very quickly, there'll be people who will be concerned on the back of the tweeting from the Prime Minister, from the Mayor of London, from every other politician, where there is no need to feel that concern.
OK. GBNews.com/your say. Lots of comments to get stuck into. I'll do so after the break. But still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight. Florida's Attorney General has claimed that surrogacy is a form of slavery and unconstitutional. What do you make of those comments? Should we be looking at surrogacy in law? But first tonight, get this. An Albanian triple killer who was granted asylum in Britain while on the run has finally been apprehended by the US. We'll be getting stuck into that after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Not much for a delay. That wasn't much for a delay.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exactly when it was required, certain munitions were deployed, certain assets were launched, and just like a fine Swiss clock, it was executed in a way that no other country could do.
Well, some good news today. The US has killed one of the most dangerous Islamic terror leaders in the world. Don't miss my exclusive interview with the US Director of Counter-terrorism, Seb Gorka, that man just there, coming up shortly. But first, an Albanian triple murderer who was granted asylum in Britain and, by the way, later given British citizenship, of course he was, whilst he was on the run for killing 3 people across Europe. Well, he's finally been apprehended in the United States. He's called Sokol Hoxha. He's now 50 years old. He fled mainland Europe after murdering his 19-year-old wife in Belgium and killing 2 brothers in Albania in 1997. Can you believe he was given asylum here? Anyway, despite being wanted internationally for the murders, Hoxha managed to enter Britain using a false identity, posing as a Kosovan refugee to successfully claim asylum and eventually secure UK citizenship. Now, though, after a 6-year international manhunt spanning 2 continents, the fugitive has been arrested in Ohio in the United States. With me now is former Met Police Detective Peter Blexley. Peter, I am so happy to be with you on this desk in London, once again reunited. Although it seems like a broken record of such here. Another unbelievably stupid incident of somebody being given asylum here, then citizenship, despite killing 3 people previously.
Yep, and because he was granted a passport, in 2012, he was then able to enter the United States, where he's been ever since, until his recent capture. And of course, it begs the question, how many others that we don't know about have come here, claiming to be Kosovan refugees, or whatever they might be, from whatever corner of the earth. And oh yes, in they come, asylum granted, passport, and they live amongst us. How many more?
Yeah, but Peter, there's so many architects and doctors and engineers and surgeons amongst them, though. Just tell us, this was an Interpol investigation, capture operation. How does Interpol work? How do nations talk to each other and execute an operation like this?
Washington Interpol took the lead on this. Interpol is, of course, an international organisation with bases in hundreds of countries around the world. And this is, of course, a victory for law enforcement, and it gives hope to people who might be seeking fugitives that have been on the run for 10, 20 years or more. So, yes, it is a success for law enforcement, but it only exists because of the failure of our immigration procedures. And it's appalling. I mean, I'm very glad he's been arrested. He was sentenced to 25 years in Albania in his absence. He's now 50, so hopefully he'll serve every single day of that. And just to give you an indicator of what kind of man he was, Hoxha, he murdered his wife because she refused to become a prostitute. And yet we didn't do the checks.
Goodness.
We didn't suss out who he was. We let him in. We gave him citizenship.
And this isn't the first case we've heard of this kind of thing, people being given asylum or entry into the UK. We had that chap, I've forgotten his name, but he murdered Thomas Roberts in Bournemouth. He was a double murderer, a Siberian guy. Do you remember that case?
Yeah.
How many of these cases do you think there have been and potentially are still yet to be unravelled?
It would be guesswork because we don't know. What we actually need now is a government that's going to come in with a Trump-esque kind of manifesto to deport those who shouldn't be here, to find the people that are criminals that move amongst us that we haven't previously identified. And we need a substantial law enforcement effort in order to make this country as safe as we possibly can.
I think, Peter, you're talking about maybe UK ICE, UK version of ICE. Would you support that?
Undoubtedly. In fact, where's the application form?
Jack? UK ICE, I mean, it's very controversial. I love what ICE are doing in the US on the whole. I know there's been some controversy, but I think we need it here.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And obviously Reform have made that one of their policies. I think as Yusuf announced that just last month or so that they were bringing this ICE-style deportation force. Obviously, like in the US, you know, there have obviously been, you know, deaths as a result of this, but obviously that was for a lot of time a result of violent protests from the far left. You know, if those people hadn't gone out and, you know, attacked police officers in many cases, obviously, you know, these things wouldn't have happened. But I think overall, I've got to agree with you, Peter. Our immigration, especially asylum system, is completely broken. You know, we just can't tell who these people are. Obviously, this guy came in under a false identity and was able to get citizenship and therefore a passport and flee to the States. There have been so many more cases like this in Britain, and the thing is, we just are not checking who these people are, and in many ways, we can't check. You know, we have to say if they're coming from wherever. I think there was a case, I think when I was on with you a few months back, where people were pretending to be Christian to get asylum claims here. There's multiple people who've lied about who they are, lied about why they've come over, and certainly there are multiple people who've committed crimes in the countries where they're fleeing from. In many cases, they're then fleeing from justice from those countries, and then there are people who come and then commit crimes here. Frankly, the asylum system as is should be either completely shut down or certainly redone, because we can't risk anybody coming in here, and frankly, any death in this country is one too many as a result of our broken asylum system.
Yeah, pray to stay. We've had gay to stay as well in recent weeks. Stuart, at the very least, would you back the instant detention of small boat migrants in this country? i.e. not allowed to roam the streets of Britain, not allowed to get bus passes into town, spend their Home Office pocket money and so on, in a detention centre, asylum claim processed, and either they're deported, hopefully, or allowed in?
Well, their asylum claims are now being processed, which wasn't happening before. There has to be a reasonable level and balance of security of those people whilst we determine who they are, but also we are bound by the Human Rights Act, which is part of British law. But I just want to address something here. We do have an immigration removals unit. We do have that within the UK. Recently, they've carried out some of the largest operations that's ever been on record, especially due to illegal working.
Do you know who's been deported, though, Stuart?
But we also have, I just want to address something else which would have been important in this case, which is information exchange and return agreements with other countries, such as with Albania, where this chap's from, which will enable that identification to happen and return them, which hasn't been happened in the past. I don't know about the specifics of this case such a long time ago, but instances like that are now addressable.
So would you detain illegal migrants who come here whilst their applications are processed in detention centres?
Look, they've broken the law.
You don't need EU to adhere by EU laws for that.
No, but we do already have an existing set of laws, such as the Human Rights Act, which are enshrined in law, and until we either reform those or change our system, we are bound by them.
But they've also broken Section 3 of the Immigration Act 1971 to enter without leave to remain. So they've broken the law.
They've broken the law when they've come in.
Lock them up.
Why, just very quickly, we've got to go to the break. Why wouldn't you detain them?
They are being detained at the minute.
No, they're not. They're being put in hotels and given pocket money.
Once they're being intercepted, they're being detained and processed as part of the asylum system. But
they're not. They're put into hotels and HMOs and given bus passes and dentistry and pocket money on Aspen cards. They're not being.
And many of them go on to commit further crimes, dreadful crimes.
So would you, in light of that, support them being detained?
That is already happening. We have immigration removal detention centres. These people are being monitored, but it's not a simple situation of simply, especially when you have people, things like family. Look, I don't want people coming here illegally. I don't want those pull factors that make people want to come here and exploit our system. But we do have a legal framework which we're bound by, and we need to reform it or change it. But just throwing it out the window and saying we shouldn't have an asylum system isn't something that, one of the foremost nations in the world can just simply...
Well, why not?
Well, we should have a reform. We should have a reformed asylum system which makes sure that actually, instead of saying yes, 90% of people that cross the small boat crossings are legitimate asylum seekers, of course they're not. So the system needs to get tougher. Then we'd be able to deport these people. Then we won't have the problems that we see of these people going through the courts time and time again.
OK, great stuff. And I think if anybody's going to head up UK ICE, Peter Blexley, maybe. Keep your eyes peeled for 2 or 3 years' time, if and when the right people get into government. Right, gbnews.com/your say. Still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight.
Will the Prime Minister approve the licences for Rosebank and Jackdaw gas fields in the North Sea?
Well, the Tories are planning to force the Labour government into taking President Trump's advice and begin drilling in the North Sea. I wonder what Ed Miliband has to say about that. But also tonight, is surrogacy a form of human slavery? That claim from Florida's Attorney General has not only sparked a row in America, but all across the world as well. Back in a sec.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Can't let them have a nuclear weapon, or you'd have problems like nobody would believe.
Senior Trump officials are pushing for a major escalation in the Iran war, taking the world into completely new territory. All the details on that coming up in just a sec. But first, more pressingly, Florida's Attorney General has sparked a backlash after comparing surrogacy in America to modern-day slavery in a major legal intervention. James Alzheimer stepped into a bitter court battle involving a gay French couple who paid a Florida woman to carry their child, arguing the arrangement may actually violate the US Constitution. So the case centres on whether unborn children can effectively be transferred through contracts, legal contracts, deals before birth. A Florida judge has warned that babies are human beings, not property, to be bought and sold in that manner. And he went even further, claiming America's loosely regulated surrogacy system, easy for me to say, could be exploited by sex offenders and foreign nationals to obtain children. Joining me in Washington is political commentator Stephen Kent and Democrat strategist Maddie Smith. Welcome back, chaps. Stephen, this is a really interesting case because this gay French couple procured a baby from this Floridian woman. The judge has signed it off, but then raised pressing concerns about the process. Just tell us what your take is on this.
Yeah, so I will be completely honest and say that I have often thought about this issue when it comes to slavery or, labor that people are engaging in with these surrogate mothers who are carrying children for all manner of couples as being a really questionable labor issue when it comes to the mother. I've not really thought about it in these terms that the judge in Florida is offering, and now I'm kind of going, yeah, I think that's actually right, because what you have here is people paying for the initiation of a pregnancy, the carrying of a child, and then squabbling over who owns the baby. Well, that is against the 13th Amendment in this country. Nobody owns, in the financial sense, any of their children. They have legal guardianship over them. It is against the law. And Weiss has this quote where he says, if a preborn living human being is entitled to legal personhood, it goes without saying that such persons cannot be the subject of bartering or ownership. And I think that that's right. So this is a real shot over the bow for the surrogacy issue that I think we really need to actually see play out.
Stephen, just sticking with you for 1 second, forget the legalities of it. Just morally, do you believe in surrogacy?
Do I believe in it? I have always thought that there were exceptions around the margins where you could make an argument for it, but the more that I have dwelled on this issue over the years, I've come to believe that we might need to draw a hard line in the sand and prohibit surrogacy, particularly because of the issue of surrogacy and birth tourism, where we have Chinese nationals and elites coming to the U.S. and taking advantage of our own poor women across this country to have them carry children, and then we have American elites going to Central and South America and taking advantage of poor people south of the border to carry babies that they don't want to carry. I think it is going to get out of control, if not already.
OK, Mally, what's your take on surrogacy? This is, if you don't mind me saying, of course, you talk about it a lot on the show. You're a gay man. Gay men are quite, of course, surrogacy is one of the options. They can acquire childs between them, adoption as well. Do you believe in surrogacy morally and then legally as well, this case in Florida? Just your opinions on both those questions.
Sure. With the slight caveat, I wouldn't say I talk a lot about being gay. I've mentioned it before.
Well,
but
openly.
On the legal issue, it is a bit of a difficult question because different states have different regulations and rules when it comes to surrogacy, and typically the law benefits the genetic parents, but that can get incredibly dicey of what that actually means when you have a woman could be giving her eggs to another woman to carry, and then you have the man's sperm. So you have multiple different people who could claim parenthood genetically and biologically, and then you could potentially have a whole other couple getting the child and raising the child. Look, I think surrogacy is something that should be available to families as an option. We talk about gay people who use surrogacy, but there are also women who they might not be able to carry a child, but they can use their eggs to have another woman carry the child, and that's the only way biologically they could have a child. But I would say I do agree with Stephen that there are ethical implications here, and I think there are moral implications of the fact that there is birth tourism, both on the Chinese side and the U.S., and then also rich folks in the United States taking advantage of poor women in other countries. But for me, banning it entirely because there are those abuses is a bit like taking a sledgehammer, when I think we can try to root out those abuses without removing something that helps a lot of couples have children, especially when you have conservatives both in the United States and in the UK and Europe worried about declining birth rates. You might not want to take away one of the ways that people can have children biologically.
Right, but I guess, I mean, I don't think that solves the declining birth rate, does it? If you're having, I mean, for example, a gay couple getting a surrogate child, I mean, how does that help the birth rate?
Well, if they didn't have the surrogate child, that's -1 on the children front, Ben.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, that brings me on to the next question,
I mean,
which
is my math wrong there? If they can't have a child and no one's going to be willing to have the child and they can't use their sperm to have surrogacy, that's -1 kid.
I suppose, yeah, well, I suppose it depends if they're being made to order. I know we're talking about human beings here, Stephen, but made to order, which brings me on to my next point, which is apparently the United States is the #1 hotspot in the world for surrogacy. It's a massive business. I mean, do you know much about this?
Yeah. I wouldn't say I know a lot about it, but I have heard more and more about it as the years have gone by, and you know, we are now dealing with two twin industries coming out of Silicon Valley, which is both gene editing and you know, genetic optimization, not eugenics, and then the second stream, which is the selection of embryos to be implanted for gestation in what we're talking about here, surrogacy operations. So those are two rising industries that are growing exponentially, and we're going to be looking at a future where people are both going to be using surrogates either in laboratories or human beings and selecting their biological and genetic traits. We have I think we have not begun to think about the ethical concerns and the debates that we're going to have as a country, and it's going to only escalate as Chinese technology races forward on artificial wombs. Just look into the subject of artificial wombs coming from Chinese labs. They have less restrictions on this realm of study, and they've been racing ahead on this issue. So once they make a major breakthrough, this whole issue of surrogacy might go out the window, and we're going to be talking about laboratory wombs, and then people are going to be doing all sorts of horrible things. This is moving faster than we're prepared for.
How humanity could descend. You see that meme of the Lord Jesus Christ where he says, "Flooded again." We have maybe USB-powered wombs coming from China. Goodness me, who knows what the future will hold. Mally, Stephen, thank you, appreciate it. Right, let's move on. Still ahead tonight on The Late Show Live, Texas has just opened the world's first children's detransition clinic for transgender kids, reversing the effects of gender-affirming care. But is that the right move? The world's first detransition clinic. Also on the show tonight.
We need a proper contest with the best candidates on the field, and I'll be standing.
I quite liked Wes Streeting before the last couple of days. He's now fired the starting gun on his bid to clinch the keys to Downing Street. I do still like him. I think he's got balls for coming on to GB News at least, but he's talking about rejoining the EU and so on now. Anyway, he wants the keys to Downing Street. So Kier Starmer has reportedly tonight decided to quit. That's according to the Mail. More details on that in a sec. Don't go anywhere.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Still ahead on the Let's Show Live, Kemi Badenoch could be about to force Labour into taking President Trump's advice. I wonder what that's about. I'll reveal all very shortly. But first, let's get stuck into the front pages, looking at the Mail, the Daily Mail. Headline reads, Mail on Sunday rather. Headline reads, Wes turns screw on Burnham over Brexit as the PM prepares a resignation timeline. Streeting threatens to derail King Andy coronation with shock call to rejoin the EU. I was just saying, Charlie Rowley, I was quite fond, no, not politically, but I respect Wes Streeting for coming on GB News and fighting his position. I kind of liked him. Then I heard he wants to rejoin the EU, so that kind of diluted a little bit.
Well, he's got to do what he's got to do over the next couple of months, which is fight a Labour leadership battle, and that means appealing to the hard left, or the soft left, all kinds of left of the Labour Party, who are very keen on rejoining the EU. They think it's a mistake. It should never have happened. And so he's got to appeal to everybody where he might be able to maximise their votes.
Who's in the running, Jack? Wes Streeting, Angela Rayner's tax is sorted out. Burnham.
Yep. Well, I mean, obviously everybody thinks that Burnham's the front runner, but he has this sort of issue where he's been around everyone in the Labour Party. There was a joke I saw earlier today, which is a Blairite, a Brownite, a Corbynite and a Starmerite walk into a bar. The bartender says, "Oh, what can I get you, Mr. Burnham?" So he has had this reputation of being, somewhere nebulous, not really have any defined ideas in the party. But obviously the question is, can he win the by-election that's coming up? I know it's a very safe reform seat according to the numbers, but there's been polling out just today, I think, which had him just slightly ahead. But it's going to be a tough battle, and he's not necessarily going to get into the House of Commons, in which case, does that mean his entire leadership thing is tanked? Obviously, Rayner's got her taxes sorted out, but it seems, I think if Burnham does get that by-election, I think he's far and beyond the front-runner. It's not going to be a total coronation, but it's hard to say how he couldn't get it if he's gotten over that first hurdle.
Really interesting polling from that by-election that's coming up, as you just mentioned, with Burnham. Burnham apparently just pips Reform. Without Burnham, Reform walk it.
Landslide, yeah.
However, Restore apparently are planning to stand in that seat. Does that change anything?
I think it could, and I think for those on the right, I think people have been concerned that if Restore stands and they take a few votes here and there off Reform, if it is going to be as tight as people say it is, then there's a worry that they would let Burnham through the middle. I've been very critical of Restore on that, because I think certainly if you want to stop an Andy Burnham premiership, then there's only one party that could potentially do that, and it seems like in my opinion it would just be a wasted vote. But it's interesting, there's never been a by-election like this before, and it's really a presidential election just in one constituency. Do you want Andy Burnham to lead the country or not?
I'm not overly worried about Restore on that front, but we're going to talk about Kemi Badenoch, I think, in a minute, about good politics, which is getting the North Sea all open. But the bad politics, and Kemi has fallen into the trap, I'm afraid, of announcing that she will stand a candidate in that by-election. She shouldn't. The Conservatives should not stand.
Why? Because
they got 4,000 votes.
Yeah.
No, because they've got to see that this isn't a by-election where, as Kemi diligently came out, I think, earlier on to say, the good people of Makerfield have to vote on things like the two-child benefit cap. She was articulating the differences between her and Reform and all the other parties. That's not what this by-election's about. You're absolutely right. This is parachuting a man from Manchester into a, inverted commas, safe seat to become the leader of the Labour Party to the Prime Minister of the country. That has to be stopped for the good of the party. What Kemi Badenoch should have done was to say, I see this completely for what it is. I'm taking the ball. I'm walking away from this situation because we're not going to allow that to happen. And the party that has the best chance of winning that by-election against Labour is obviously Reform. They should have a clear run to do so.
And they got basically nothing in Gorton and Denton as well. Same thing, I think, if you added up the Tory votes.
6 votes. 6 votes Sarah Poacher won by. 6 votes. Can you imagine?
In that same thinking, you think Restore should stand down as well?
Absolutely.
OK. Stuart, can I ask you, it's not even been 2 years since Labour took power. They were out of power, waiting patiently for 14 years, and already in the Mail today we've got, well, of course, who's going to be the next Prime Minister? Burnham, Streeting, Rayner. Talks today, according to Dan Hodges, that Kier Starmer is planning his resignation. That's a pretty dismal start to a Labour government after 14 years out of power, isn't it?
I think
it's all gone tits up.
There's a few moving cogs in this machine at the minute. There's a few variables, which is, first one is the Prime Minister has said that he's not leaving. He said that he wants to go on till the next election. That is the last known release that we've had from Number 10. West Streeting today has said that he will be standing in a leadership election. I don't think that comes as a surprise to anyone necessarily. I think what we don't know is, will he trigger it? Because we've got the variable of whether Andy Burnham is the candidate or even becomes the MP for Makerfield. We don't know whether that's going to happen. Wes said he wants to wait. The other candidates have signified that they don't want to fire the starting gun. So will Wes be the one to do that, and on what timetable? Because at the moment the Prime Minister is saying he's not going to step down. So in that sense, there's realistically no change here. When it comes to the EU, which the Mail is talking about here, the Prime Minister has said he wants to seek a closer relationship with Europe. And West Streeting today, an event I was attending, said very clearly that he was going to look to keep the manifesto commitment that we weren't going to look to reverse that until the next election, but there would be another angle on that in the future where that would be put back to the public.
Well, that brings me on to Glynis's point on your say. Hello, Glynis. Good morning to you again. You said whoever wins the Labour leadership doesn't have a mandate if they continue with Starmer's policies because he lied at the election and doesn't have one. So that's just what I guess...
Well, we've got King's Speech, so they have to carry out that legislative agenda either way because of Parliament.
Right, more coming up in the next hour on the Late Show Live, including this exclusive.
Exactly when it was required, certain munitions were deployed, certain assets were launched, and just like a fine Swiss clock, it was executed in a way that no other country could do.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again. To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning. Hope you're well. Live from London, this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America. Britain fights back. So Kier Starmer and David Lammy brand the Unite the Kingdom rally divisive and frightening. Yeah, me neither. But are they deliberately smearing patriotism?
Here to try
and get the government to listen to the people, because that's all we want. That's all we want. We want people to listen to the people.
Elsewhere, good news. Target destroyed. President Trump announces one of ISIS's most senior leaders has been killed in a US-led strike in Africa. Don't miss an exclusive interview with Trump's US Senior Director for Counter-terrorism, Seb Gorka.
Exactly when it was required, certain munitions were deployed, certain assets were launched, and just like a fine Swiss clock, it was executed in a way that no other country could do.
Breaking tonight, the Conservatives plan to force a vote on drilling in the North Sea. Has Kemi Badenoch been listening to America's Commander-in-Chief?
Said if you don't change your energy thing and get away from windmills and go back to oil and gas, and you have something that's no other country has. Very few countries have anything like it, the North Sea.
I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live. Hello, good morning. Happy Sunday to you. Welcome to The Late Show Live in London just for tonight. I'll explain later. Joining me this evening is my panel, political commentator Charlie Rowley, Labour councillor Stuart Fawcett and the journalist Jack Hadfield. And in Washington, political commentator Stephen Kent and the Democrat strategist Mally Smith. Hello, boys. Thank you for your company. Right, moving on to our main breaking news this evening. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has taken President Trump's advice, because we can now reveal that on Tuesday, the Tory leader will force a vote in Parliament calling on the government to approve the Rosebank and Jackdaw oil and gas fields and get Britain drilling. The party's laid an amendment to the King's speech urging the government to drop its opposition to new oil and gas licences and instead legislate for a presumption in favour of approval. Has she been listening to President Trump? Big question, though, will it work? Because take a listen to what Sir Kier Starmer has previously told GB News.
Chris. Thank you, Prime Minister. GBNews viewers are very, very worried about petrol prices, as you might understand. Yeah. They don't understand why you won't open up oil and gas fields and try and bring down the cost, mitigate that against, of course, the dash to net zero. Why not open up those oil and gas fields?
Obviously, that's going to be part of the mix for many years to come, so there's no difference of position there. We did make progress on what's called tiebacks. Your viewers may have seen that or not, but that basically allows further access into oil and gas in the North Sea, so that's already in place. But the question I'm answering or trying to address at all times is what are the measures that are actually going to take money off bills now or in the foreseeable future, and that is by ensuring that we've got a better mix of renewables and that we go to renewables. And there's no denying, because we've seen this firsthand now. We saw it in Ukraine. We saw it in the 12 Days War. We're seeing it again now. If you're on the international market for oil and gas, you're vulnerable to the price going up on the international market because we, the UK, have little control over that. And our North Sea oil doesn't give us control over that because we sell onto the market. What gives us control is renewables, our own homegrown energy, which is then more secure and more independent, which is why I think that we should go further and faster in relation to renewables. Let's get control of our own energy.
Joining me in London is my panel, Jack Hadfield, Charlie Rowley and Stuart Fawcett. Charlie, I'll come to you first. This big amendment vote on Tuesday, is it going to make any difference whatsoever?
Well, I don't think Labour will vote for it. I don't think they'll agree. So I don't think
what's the point of it?
It's a non-starter. Well, to demonstrate that the party, the Conservative Party under new leadership, under Kemi Badenoch's leadership, that she gets it. So
it's performative?
No, but obviously if it came to pass, then obviously you'd have to follow through. Then that would be a good thing because the government has so many levers, and when you have energy bills going through the roof, when you have people feeling the pinch at the petrol pump, you need to do something about it. Government can do something about it, just as it did with the energy bills at the start of the war in Ukraine.
Liz Truss's 40 billion quid bailout. By the way, I appreciated that from Truss at the time, but I mean that's just socialism on steroids.
Well, of course, and there have been knock-on effects and implications, and I think Rishi Sunak did something about it. I think even Boris did something about it before then. So it's important when government can pull the lever levers at its disposal to do something to help the number one issue, or alleviate the number one issue in the country, which is the cost of living crisis when it comes to energy costs, it should do. So this is just her setting out a stall to say that she gets it, she gets this particular crisis. This can help if the government did just, and if we were able to open up those North Sea oil and gas fields, to bring prices down. That is a good thing. It's something that this government has had time to do, that's refused to do, so that puts a clear water between her and Labour, and she'd be praised for.
Right. Jack, Mr. Bumfuzzle on your say, no relation to me. Hello, Mr. Bumfuzzle. Good morning to you. You said renewable energy is still subject to the international markets, and Kier even said the government don't control this. It doesn't matter if we have oil or renewables, the government, where's it gone, have no control over the price.
Well, that's exactly the case. But I think, as Kier said, with the oil and gas market, there's no reason that you couldn't take control over this, for example, if the government wanted to. But I think the real issue of that I have with what he said, we say, we need to address the immediate issues first. This is the short-termist ideology that has led British governments, of both red and blue stripes for decades. I remember back in from 2011 or so when Nick Clegg was the deputy PM, he said, we couldn't put nuclear in place because it would only be on by 2025. Well, that's last year. Yeah. And that's the thing, if you don't do these long-term energy projects, you will just end up with putting plasters over and over again, as Kier Starmer is basically suggesting. Yes, these things take time, but they will eventually get there. And I think, as you were saying on renewables, there's a lot of these sort of climate change, eco people who are against fossil fuels and oil and gas, for those ideological reasons. But, if you want to have something that's not polluting the environment, why not go nuclear? There are lots of other countries, obviously France has nuclear energy, and again, it takes time to do so. But if you had built up a long-term, more nuclear energy, it would be clean, efficient, cheap. But again, we can't do that because a lot of people think that nuclear energy is scary.
Well, look at France, EDF Energy. There's some of the lowest energy bills in the world. Nuclear, I think it's classed as a renewable now, isn't it, Stuart? Where do we keep our nuclear waste? Is it Cumbria? A small place in Cumbria?
Well, we've got different sites being opened up.
Yeah.
But I think this is what's really important to note at the minute about the marketplace, and then coming on to nuclear energy, is that Labour had a commitment to create GB Energy at the last election, which is essentially a cooperative. So you had more sovereign security over energy. It wasn't going directly onto the marketplace. That was quite a large piece of policy that it wanted to implement and is implementing. But in the meantime, the material situation in the world has changed with regard to energy supply, probably several times, actually. Now, my position is slightly different to my party's on this. I think there is an opportunity to use the revenue from North Sea oil and gas to fund nuclear power and even our defence capability, because actually we would also be able to put terms in about sovereignty over that actual resource in the first place and its route to market. But the outlook at the minute from the Labour government is that energy security is going to be achieved through renewables and nuclear. We are now building 2 nuclear power stations. It's been a huge national investment in order to do it. But it does take time.
Is it the Hinkley?
Point C, yeah.
I mean, they've been going for decades.
I think.
But there's 2 new reactors being invested.
And
largest.
Are they not owned by the Chinese as well?
No, that was it was under Cameron. The Chinese were going to invest in it, and the UK government were going to underwrite it essentially, so they couldn't lose anything. But now this is a new sovereign investment by the Treasury to build those new nuclear reactors. But the thing is, as the recent energy crisis is now telling us, we need to go much further on that. And France did this in the 1970s, in the last oil crisis, when Middle East states embargoed oil, essentially, after the Yom Kippur War. And they decided that they were going to be a nuclear nation. And they built a record amount of reactors. And Britain could do that. We have Rolls-Royce, which is building SMRs, which are small modular reactors. We could totally do that. But the problem is we're in this bind of being tied economically. We need some sort of injection of cash and investment in order to do it.
What happens to that?
Well, I think worldwide growth is pretty underwhelming at the minute, isn't it? Full stop.
I don't know. America posted 4.7%.
But we're at this time. And look, I have to be honest. And by the way, I want us to have more than 0.6% growth, but it was 0.6 in this quarter, which was the highest amongst G7 nations. Yeah. But that's still quite disappointing, isn't it?
But also, just on the growth, I made the comparison to the USA. What is the difference between us and the USA? They are drilling. They are drilling for oil. They are turning their countryside into Swiss cheese with shale gas and fracking. They are energy.
But they have different land uses as well. Obviously, there's a lot more land out there where fracking doesn't have necessarily the same environmental and physical impact upon property in residential areas. Whereas here, the places where if you were to frack, there has been side effects on residential areas. So it's a little bit different. You can apply different policies because the US has a different geothermal climate underneath the ground, essentially, and what's on top of it.
OK, I'll go to Washington very quickly. Stephen Kent, Manny Smith. Stephen, first question to you. Somebody on your side has said, please explain why the USA isn't affected by international prices in gas and oil. They drill their own as we could. Surely, if that was the case, the USA would be paying the same prices as us. It's more BS from the government again and more lies. What's the reality, Stephen?
Well, we are certainly not immune to international oil markets, but we are looking at the possibility of a real cool down in prices over the next 6 months. One, as our oil exports actually start to, and our own domestic oil drilling starts to actually enter the system, and then also you're going to see the UAE formalize their exit from OPEC. And I think most of the international community, and particularly Americans, are missing how big of a story this is in terms of how oil prices are going to be negotiated, as well as oil entering the market. We will not have so many artificial caps being put on the production of different barrels of oil to enter the global economy when that is all the way through. So it's going to be a very different world in 6 months, but we think very short term here when it comes to American politics and gas prices.
Mally, just enlighten me. What is the sort of the main makeup of the US energy contribution?
Putting a pin in that, taking a step back to the your sake comment, we are most definitely affected by the global energy crisis. Gas prices have gone up close to 50%. We're at getting near $5 gallon gas. All because of Trump's Iran war of choice. And The Economist recently had an article stating it's about to get worse because the United States released a substantial amount from the U.S. Petroleum Strategic Reserve, and a lot of oil was already out at sea when the strait got closed down, and both of those are drawing down now. So we are about to see another jump if the Iran war doesn't subside and we get the Strait of Hormuz open. So no, the U.S. is very much affected. Overall inflation went from 3% to 3.3% to 3.8%. So I don't know what she's talking about, but putting a pin in that, I think the United States has a all of the above energy strategy. They mostly have gotten there by chance, which is you have the Democrats have invested in renewables while Republicans have been pretty pro oil and gas drilling and fracking. And you'll see sometimes the Democrats will kind of roll back some of the oil and gas fracking, and then sometimes you'll see some of the Republicans pull back on the renewable investments. But they do it on the edges, and what that means is the United States has invested in both industries, and I think that's something the UK should do. Even though I'm progressive, I think they should drill, but I also think they should...
Nally, even though I'm conservative, I think we should have wind farms.
Amazing, amazing.
We can have both.
Don't tell Trump about those windmills. They cause cancer.
Think of the birds and the wildlife, you bigots. Mally, let me just ask you something. Do you give credit to President Trump for pledging to pause federal gas tax on petrol in the US to help the American people?
I give credit, I guess, for President Trump trying to put out the fire he created, but even suspending the gas tax would still only save Americans 18-20 cents, and gas prices have gone up way farther than that, and the gas tax actually funds the U.S. highway system. So it's not just this magical thing that we can just wave and say there's no effects. That means we're going to be repairing our roads less. So no. And second, he proposed it. Has congressional Republicans done it? No, they have not.
then at the end of the day, the American people need a more clear message coming out of the White House about the range of possibilities when it came to oil prices if Iran had actually made it to the development of a tangible nuclear weapon of any kind. Because Democrats and Mali here think that the hostage situation going on in the Strait of Hormuz with the flow of oil is bad right now. Well, it would have been completely insurmountable if Iran had nuclear capabilities. So sometimes in the world, you actually just have to eat the costs, and there are downstream benefits, but you have to get to that point.
Well, I mean, clearly President Trump thinks Americans should eat the cost. He said he doesn't think about Americans' financial situations.
Oh, stop lying. He said he does not think about
He said he does not think about
America's financial situations when thinking about how to handle foreign policy. And that is what you want an adult to do. You do not want somebody making their foreign policy decisions based on every domestic concern. That is what the worst of the political class do. This is called political courage.
What you want is to actually do what he said he was going to do, which is A, not going to get us into any new wars, and B, end inflation on day one. And
well, Mali, let me ask you. Mali, would you rather Iran had a nuclear weapon, the jihadis had a nuclear weapon, or would you rather have $5 gas?
I would rather have us stuck in the Obama nuclear deal.
Jihadis with nuclear weapons.
That wasn't the question. That wasn't the answer the question, Mali.
All of the enriched uranium happened after Trump left the deal. Trump's own defense secretary, General Mattis, who was not a huge fan of the deal, thought it was a mistake that Trump ripped it up.
Okay,
so
well, we are where we are, or you're where you are.
Created.
We are where we are. So would you rather have the Islamist despots had a nuke, or would you rather have $5 gas? Which, by the way, I always say to you, is the equivalent of about 80 pence a litre in the UK, which many Brits would be raising their cups of tea.
I'd rather take the $5 gas.
I don't want Iran to have a nuke, but let's talk about this war that you guys have cheerleaded. We have a closed Strait of Hormuz, which we didn't have before, and they still have enriched uranium. You guys have cheerleaded this, and Trump has gotten nothing.
It's cheer-led, and would you like to see boots on the ground to go in there and get the nuclear dust? Because that is something that we probably could and should do, or at least have the Israelis do. And there are discussions as recently as yesterday where Trump is pushing the UAE to take the next step in seizing territory in Iran, because there are a lot of people in that neighborhood who want to pick apart the country of Iran, who don't like being their neighbors.
Cheer-led, whatever it is. Thank you.
We'll be getting stuck into Iran later on during the show.
Your guys' war.
Chaps, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Let's get the thoughts of Labour commentator Simon Nash, who joins us now in the studio. Simon, good morning. Thank you for your company. Let's go back to the genesis of this story, this segment, which was Kemi Badenoch forcing a vote on Tuesday for an amendment to what we heard in the King's speech. Just your take on that, please.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to see them taking on another Reform UK policy, and I actually don't think it's a good idea to do more and more oil drilling. We're wasting a huge amount of energy. You've got to think about intergenerational justice. I mean, firstly, maybe keep it in the ground for 50 years' time. We have supermarkets leaving their fridges open with open doors, like the heating on, with the doors open. Energy's being wasted everywhere. The train network, they're leaving lights on at railway stations. Unionised staff can't even be bothered to turn the lights off. We are guzzling energy. And actually, we do not have a British national oil company. There was something called the British National Oil Corporation that was disbanded by Margaret Thatcher in 1979. Norway didn't do that. They do have a national oil company, and the money from that goes into a sovereign wealth fund, and they can restrict exports of that. Jackdaw, affectionately called Jackdaw and Rosebank, sound like lovely names. These are areas of the North Sea which have been sold off to two private companies, and there's nothing to suggest those private companies won't just sell the oil and gas on the market. So it's not really going to reduce people's... If you think about that area of the North Sea...
Who else is going to extract the gas and oil from the North Sea? Not going to be the Labour government, is it?
Well, they could do. Other governments have national oil companies. In fact, the North Sea is divided up into areas, and some of those are owned by the Chinese National Oil Company, the United Arab Emirates National Oil Company.
Local governments and governments can't even collect the bins on time or run trains. You want them to extract gas from the North Sea?
Well, the British government does lots of things well. We have the nuclear power coming on with the Labour government, which is a great low-carbon solution. I mean, from atomic weapons to nuclear power to lots of good things. The government could do that. And actually, with climate change in mind, I mean, the actual renewable energy as an employer has a bigger footprint than oil and gas. So there are 207,000 jobs in the renewable energy sector compared to 240,000 in the oil and gas sector here in the UK. So renewables are winning. The largest energy supplier for UK homes is Octopus Energy, a renewable energy supplier. So that's the way things are moving. And the Conservatives are wrong to say that they're saying, oh, so many 100 jobs are being lost every week in the oil and gas sector because of this renewable agenda, which just simply isn't true.
Well, why are the jobs being lost then? I mean, Ed Miliband wants a permanent ban on North Sea drilling. So, I mean, why are the jobs being lost?
Well, it's not expanding, and those jobs are being created in the renewable energy sector. It's not clear that figure is completely accurate. It's created by the Robert Gordon University, and Offshore Energies UK claimed it was due to the windfall tax. So they sort of can't have it both ways. Is it the windfall tax, or is it the lack of exploration, or is it Ed Miliband saying, oh, we want less oil and gas?
But does it not make sense, Simon, not to throw the baby out with the bathwater? Fine, if you're pro-renewables. I mean, I think at some points the UK contributions day by day is mostly renewables. I think wind on certain windy days is the major contribution to the grid. Fine, but why would you want to go down the route of, say, Ed Miliband to ban it completely? Surely if the resource is there, whether it's depleted or not, if there's stuff there to be had, and indeed fracking as well in areas that could be deemed safe, why not use those as well?
With fracking, it does pollute aquifers, so the storage of water underground, which we can use for wells and for clean water, that gets polluted by fracking. And, well, it's moving towards renewable. We're not cutting off North Sea gas like that. It's a phase-out, and hence no new oil and gas from the North Sea, while still using existing.
But why phase it out?
Why phase it out?
You've got literal liquid gold under your feet.
Well, because it's polluting liquid gold. Climate change harms
But it's
people.
not going to make a difference. It's climate change, Simon. What is the UK's contribution to global warming?
Well, per capita, it's actually more than China. Per head of the population, it's more than many, many other countries. In poorer countries, people aren't flying 3 times a year for weekend.
What's the figure, Simon?
Sorry?
What's the figure?
Well, per capita, I don't know the figure off the top of my head, actually. That's a good question.
Not per capita. What is
it's
the
3
figure
times
for
that
the
of a Chinese person.
What's the figure for the UK? What is the UK's contribution to global warming?
Well, I'd say Britain's a small country, but per head of the population, that should be the measure. I don't have the figures in front of me, but it is greater than that of anyone in China.
Less than 1%, Simon.
Well, no, not per capita.
We could turn every light off in this great nation and turn off all the gas and the oil. We would make no difference
A better
global warming.
Well, a better statistical trick would be to say, well, let's just take the figure of London's contribution or the village or town of Bromley's contribution to world emissions and take that figure instead. No, it should be per head of the population.
What's the figure for Bromley?
Sorry?
What's the figure for Bromley?
Well, exactly. It would be very, very small if one were to calculate. It shouldn't be based on a national level. It should be per head. I mean, that makes sense, right? It's per head of the population. China has millions of people and has a large carbon footprint, but we're manufacturing
they're building the equivalent of about 7 coal power stations a week.
Well, it's like many things.
What's the point?
If everyone shoplifted, all shops would go bankrupt. If only a minority of people do it.
Is it some sort of to make ourselves feel good? I mean, we're making no difference to global emissions. As I said, if Britain turned off the lights now, we would have no effect on global emissions in the grand scheme of things. So is it to make ourselves feel virtuous and holier than thou? And what's it about?
No, well, I mean, you know, having a positive impact does have an impact on others, but actually other countries are doing the same thing. I mean, France, having this nuclear power, has reduced its bills and reduced its carbon footprint at the same time, and lots of other countries are doing this. Just like you don't steal, because if everyone stole, the economy would collapse. It's the same with climate change. It's not just about feeling good, it's about doing the right thing. It does have an impact morally and through influence on other countries, and actually other countries are doing it. We don't want to be the pariah who's guzzling fossil fuels at our own expense as well.
I don't know who you're really that bothered about impressing, because nobody else really cares what the UK is doing. The Chinese don't, the Indians don't.
Well, the Chinese have invested a huge amount in renewable energy, and they're manufacturing our stuff. So actually, it's kind of our carbon footprint exported to China.
Well, isn't that a joke as well? You talk about wind farms and so on. They're all made in China, then shipped across the sea in gas-guzzling ships all the way to the UK. Well, the whole thing's a complete joke, isn't it?
Well, that's not true. I mean, most wind turbines are made here in Europe. There are lots of solar panels made in China. That's true.
And the blades. The blades. And what happens to the wind turbines when they're finished?
I mean, that's a separate issue. I mean, what do you do with your car when it's finished? I mean, do you boycott things made in China? Do you try and only buy British goods?
No, no, of course. Well, I'll try and buy British where I can, but I'm saying if you're talking about the fact that this is it's a bright green future, I mean, the simple fact, just one example, that wind turbines and the blades are made in China. They're manufactured in China using oil, by the way, shipped across the globe on gas-guzzling
Not
ships.
true. I mean, Vestas is a massive wind turbine producer. They manufacture it here in Europe. They did have a plant here in the UK, and I think they're manufactured in Holland. So they're not all made in China. Yeah, some people will do the cheeky thing and get cheaper manufacturing in China, but they don't have to be made in China. They are often, and Germany has a big solar panel sector. So they are manufactured here in Europe, and that's great for the European economy. Well, let's lobby together for more renewable energy production here in the UK, for wind turbine factories to be made here in the UK, so then it'd be homegrown. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Or we could lobby for the drilling of the North Sea, one or the other. Simon, thank you, appreciate it. Simon Nash, Labour commentator. gbnews.com/your say. Let me know your thoughts. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight. Could a Brit be about to become the next governor of California and lead an economy larger than Britain's? I think it's 4 times larger than Britain's, maybe off the top of my head. I might be wrong on that. But also tonight, Texas has just opened the world's first children's detransition clinic, reversing the effects of gender-affirming care for youngsters. But is that the right move? Do we maybe need something like this in Great Britain? Maybe the opposite of Tavistock. This is The Late Show Live. Back in a sec.
Can't let them have a nuclear weapon, or you'd have problems like nobody would believe.
Well, talking of Iran, some of President Trump's closest advisors are pushing for a major escalation in the Iran war. That's coming up shortly. But first, one of the senior leaders of the Islamic State terror group has been killed, blown into red mist in a major joint operation by US and Nigerian forces in Africa. The guy's name was Abu Bakr al-Manuki. He was targeted in a strike on his compounds near Lake Chad in Nigeria on Friday in what President Trump described as a meticulously planned and very complex mission. Posting on Truth Social, the president claimed al-Manuki was the most active terrorist in the world and said the ISIS leader believed he could hide in Africa without being detected. A little earlier tonight, President Trump's senior director for Counter-terrorism, Dr. Seb Gorka, joins me for this exclusive interview.
Yeah, this is a massive win in the last 24 hours. Not only did we bring home the highest-ranking Trende Aragua cartel leader extradited to the United States from another nation, we brought to America in handcuffs an individual who is linked to the Iranian forces, who had planned at least 20 attacks in the European continent, in Canada, and was planning attacks on the U.S., but perhaps most impressive of all, and I had the honor of watching it live from the Situation Room in the West Wing. Our forces are peerless operators working with the Nigerian security forces, executed a mission straight out of something like Tom Clancy, but this time it's real, and they neutralized, they permanently removed from the battlefield the number 2 of ISIS, an individual with the blood of many innocent human beings on his hands. And also, don't forget the Christmas Day message the president sent to ISIS during a strike back then. This is part and parcel not just of fighting global jihad, but pushing back on those who attack Christians simply because they are Christians.
Yes, I was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe ISIS now predominantly are active in Africa and, of course, Nigeria, and they are deliberately targeting Christians en masse.
Actually, interestingly, a function of how successful President Trump was in the first term. Remember when he basically unleashed the U.S. military against the ISIS caliphate in Iraq and Syria. So we'd been told by his predecessor, Obama, that ISIS is just a threat you have to live with. He called it a generational threat. Well, we said no. The president unleashed the military, and we crushed that caliphate in just a matter of weeks. Now, always after these successful operations, there is, a need for the threat group to regroup themselves. Because we were so successful in the Middle East, where did they go? To areas where there is ungoverned space, on the African continent, and that's where they partially reconstituted themselves. And if you read the actual founding documents of these organizations, whether it's Al-Qaeda, whether it's ISIS, or whether it's the Muslim Brotherhood that is the progenitor of them all, they're very clear. Their number one target is what? Christians and Jews, and that is what we are seeing in the African continent. President Trump said, no, we are not going to permit this to happen, and that's one of the reasons that this heinous individual was permanently dealt justice last night.
Can you reveal, Dr. Gorka, how he was taken out? Was it a drone strike? Was it sort of forces on the ground? Any detail you can share?
Not at this moment. AFRICOM has a statement that you can go to Twitter, to X, to see the details, which are unclassified. But it was a complex operation. It was done. It was like something out of clockwork. You know, we were watching the time, the go time, and exactly when it was required, certain munitions were deployed, certain assets were launched, and just like a fine Swiss clock, it was executed in a way that no other country could do. So we're very grateful to the support of the Nigerian forces, but this was an exquisite special operation, the likes of which only the United States can do. Whether it's Midnight Hammer, whether it's Epic Fury, or whether it was this operation, nobody comes close.
What's it like sitting in that situation room alongside your colleagues in the administration, and you're seeing this play out over the course of, I don't know, hours, I guess? I mean, what is it like, just from a human perspective, sat there? Is it tense? Is it anxious? Do you get pizzas in? Just enlighten us if you can.
That's very funny. Halfway through, I was a bit parched, and we have a very good soda machine in the West Wing. So I said to my colleagues, "Can I bring you some light refreshments?" So I went out, and the boss brought in some bubbly water for the whole team. But to your main point, it's surreal. It is utterly surreal, because you're seeing these things represented in the movies, but this time it's not a fictional character. It's not Jack Ryan. It's not some fictional special forces unit. It's real. It's happening live, and we're getting to watch it. And I can't go into the technological details, but the clarity of what we are seeing, the individuals, the buildings, the livestock. There's a moment where you hear over the radio, we see, something is seen, cattle, livestock. I mean, it's just incredible, the precision of these operations. Think of Hollywood and then double or triple it, and then you might be getting a little bit close to the reality.
Wow. Dr. Gorka, why does it feel like the US is just clearing up the world's mess and everybody else is really kind of taking a back seat?
Well, look, we do have some partners. Sadly, you've heard the incredible speeches by Vice President Vance, by my immediate boss, the National Security Advisor, Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. We have issues with our friends losing confidence in themselves. What the National Security Strategy calls, and the new Counter-terrorism strategy the president just signed, this lack of civilizational confidence. We have a lot of cleaning up to do, because for 4 years we were run by a somnambulant individual who just didn't kill jihadis who are threatening America. I can reveal to you right now, unclassified, in just the last 15 months since the president executed our first counter-ISIS operation on day 11, or authorized it, our forces have killed more than 860 jihadis around the globe. So as of last night, more than 860 jihadis. It's outside Operation Epic Fury, and beyond that, because it belongs to our portfolio as well, the president has liberated 106 American citizens who are hostages or wrongfully detained. So that's in just less than a year and a half, 106 Americans back home, no ransom paid, and nigh on close to 1,000 jihadis who have been sent to eternal, let's just say they have been dealt with.
They've been dealt with. Dr. Seb Gorka, the head of counter-terror for President Trump's administration. Let's get the thoughts of Stephen Kent and Mally Smith in Washington. Mally, 106 Americans freed by this administration, 860 jihadis evaporated into red mist. Are you a proud American hearing that?
That's great. I'm glad we got those Americans back. And I'm also glad that we're taking out folks who want to do us harm. And I mean, the U.S. has gotten, and Stephen and I kind of joked about this off camera, but the U.S. is very good at dropping bombs from afar on terrorists in different countries. The disappointing and sad thing, though, is it feels like we've gone through successive administrations where we get reports on we've taken out some huge leader in ISIS or some huge Al-Qaeda leader. And the problem is more of them keep springing up, and I guess that's what you got to keep doing. You got to keep going at them. But I also think too, what would really help is these countries where these terrorists are coming from need to get a better and more stable government, so they're not breeding grounds for folks who want to kill us.
Stephen, your take on what we heard from Dr. Gorka?
Yeah, I wouldn't actually be that far apart from Mali on this. You know, I love to hear that we are bringing home hostages, no ransom paid. It's fantastic news, and we are very good at what we do when it comes to drone strikes around the world on terror leaders. But again, these people will keep cropping up. So my excitement is somewhat limited. I assume the government is doing these things all the time in a quiet fashion, and that's what I expect them to do when it comes to counterterrorism and keeping Americans safe. I do more so stay concerned about the domestic situation in America and making sure that we're on the right trajectory. And I don't really care too much for the triumphalism when it comes to taking out random ISIS leaders in Nigeria.
Do you care, though? I guess this is part of the sort of national security white paper of this administration, which is protecting Christians worldwide who are being slaughtered en masse in Nigeria. And nobody else is sticking up for those Christians apart from your country, your administration. So, I mean, do you care about the Christians?
Well, of course I do. The national security strategy also is very heavy on pushing our allies around, and I think that is one area where I would like to see the most dramatic change is our supposed friends in Europe joining us in these kind of operations in the Middle East, but I don't think that's going to be happening.
You say supposed friends. Are we still in your good books, Stephen?
I don't think the UK behaves like a friend when it comes to your government, no.
Oh, OK. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Maddie. Appreciate it.
You're a great friend to America, though, Ben.
Oh, thank you, Stephen. I caught the end of that. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Charlie Rowley, the United States flying the flag for Christianity worldwide, protecting these persecuted Christians in Nigeria, being slaughtered en masse. And again, another show of force, their military capabilities, their prowess on the international stage. And by the way, as I said to Dr. Gorka there as well, Nigeria, Iran, Venezuela, conversations over Greenland as well, not, as far as I'm concerned, isolated moments of madness. It's all connected as part of the United States national security strategy.
Absolutely, you know, and, you know, we now have more people, hopefully, being taken out who shouldn't be, frankly, who want to do us harm, who want to do many people harm, not just because it's here in the UK or people in America, but a Western society, Western values. You know, these are people who, or even not Western values, they are just cases in point of people who want to commit mass murder, mass crimes, mass terrorism, who have a warped ideology of their view of the world, that want to impose that on everybody else to their, you know, to the detriment of equal civilization, if you can put it like that, people that want to live in harmony and peace. And that is absolutely why Donald Trump was right to go into Iran. I know we touched on it a bit earlier on. I wish the UK was a bit more supportive going against Iran. I mean, the way it's played out is obviously not the way in which Donald Trump obviously wants it to be. I don't think he ever thought he'd be in a situation where he'd be negotiating around the table with Iran. I think he just wanted to obliterate the regime and get out as quickly as possible.
Well, I think if he did want to obliterate them, he could. I think he can turn the screw. I think he always wanted a deal. I think you obliterate them finally, getting that enriched uranium with boots on the ground. There's no really other way of doing it. But I think if he really wanted to, he could.
Well, I think my personal view is I think he thought that if he went in as hard as he did at the start, the regime would just, you know,
well, they have all been killed. I mean, the first wave of the Ayatollah and his team were blown up.
Well, they're still there. And I think he was hoping, as we saw the protests in Iran and in the UK and across the world, where, you know, the people wanted a new regime to take over. I think he was hoping that they would be waiting waiting in the wings, and the people of Iran would be able to then continue their protests. So you would see a changing regime without any more force. But that didn't happen.
No, I agree. And I think if you ask the protesters who took bravely to the streets in January and February and were slaughtered en masse, are they happy with how things have ended up thus far? I'd probably say no, they're not. Stuart, you used to serve in the Royal Navy.
That's correct.
We were talking off air about how, I mean, look, this is great that the administration has taken out this ISIS leader in Nigeria. Good stuff. Carry on. 860 jihadis wiped out worldwide since January 25. However, you were saying, which I don't think it's hard to contest, that you can't really eradicate an ideology.
I mean, this is the situation with extremism, and why we see the Middle East and North Africa being a hotbed of extremism popping up, as it's been mentioned on this show. When you're talking about extremists, whether it's Hamas in Gaza or Hezbollah in South Lebanon or even the IRGC in Iran, their ideology is so entrenched that you're not going to break their will to win or the will to govern or the will to have power. You need to take away the means that they have to attack other people and bend their will upon to them. In Iran, you've seen as you just mentioned, how they dealt with pro-democracy protesters. But Iran aren't happy with oppressing their own people. They have several proxies all around the region and the world, some of which have been accredited to, I think, almost 22 conspired attacks here in the UK. They wish to exploit that particular influence.
So why did Labour take so long to prescribe the IRGC?
Well, it's currently not prescribed as we talk at this very moment in time.
Well, they say, Starmer says he's fast-tracking it.
Yes,
I mean, fast-track's a bit of a joke, bearing in mind America did it in 2019. The EU have done it well before us. Australia, New Zealand, they've all done it.
I think the argument is diplomatic, which is the IRGC is the governing regime in...
But hang on, your lot, Yvette Cooper, I think David Lammy stood up in the dispatch box when they were in opposition, goading the Tories, saying, when we get to power, we'll be prescribing the IRGC. Why haven't you done it? Why haven't you done it? Yeah. I mean, they've been in power since July 24.
The only reason I can give you is that would shut down any diplomatic contact with Iran, essentially.
So they were lying in 24 when they were campaigning in Parliament saying we'll prescribe them as soon as we get in?
I wouldn't go so far as to say they were lying, but I think they've probably
had
a misapprehension on the effects of prescribing such an organisation, given it is the ruling regime in that country.
Charlie?
Well, it should be done, and there's no two ways about it. And that is the problem that we have with this government time and time again. There's what they say that they're going to do, whether it's prescribing the IGCR, whether it's going for growth, whether it's dealing with the small boats crisis. There's what they say they do, and then the complete opposite, which is the reality, where you don't have growth, you don't stop the small boats, the economy is still a mess, and we still have the ability to talk, as Stuart was saying, with an organisation that should be prescribed like every other country's done.
Do you think there's a political reason why maybe they haven't been so keen to prescribe them?
Do you know what? A cynic might say that there is. And we can all be cynical, I think, of this government from what we've seen over the last just shy of 2 years, where they are in complete chaos politically, which is why they're reaching for things like a particular certain of society. They are going for a particular voting base in particular constituencies. We're seeing that with the Greens.
Not the Mormons.
Not the Mormons.
Oh.
But, where there are constituencies that have a high Muslim population, you're going to see candidates like in the Green Party, for example, talking in a different language that is not English. You're seeing that with the Labour Party now.
It's diversity, bigot. Embrace it.
Segmentation of society there.
And it is. But that is what's happening. That's why the Greens will only win, potentially, if we're looking at the current polls now of if there was a general election tomorrow, the Greens would win about 30 seats. But those 30 seats are not diverse. They have a particular population of a particular background. We all know that.
Yeah. Daniel Howard on your say has said, Charlie is so well-spoken and charming.
Oh, thank you.
Five is in the post.
Five's in the post. Five's in the post.
Let's get the thoughts of Chief Strategy Officer at New Lines Institute, Azim Ibrahim. Azim, good morning. Welcome to the Late Show Live. Welcome back. Just your reaction, please, to this breaking news that ISIS second-in-command has been wiped out by President Trump.
Ben, this is another operation that's being carried out, absolutely flawlessly by the United States in partnership with the Nigerian intelligence. This has been in planning since December, so a considerable amount of time and effort has gone into this, and they've carried it out, perfectly with no casualties on the Allied side at all. And we definitely need to see much more of this. I think what this indicates is that the war on terror is simply not over. It simply shifted the centre of gravity from the Middle East now to Africa, particularly in the Sahel, where there's areas of very weak governance, which have now become hotbeds of these radical extremist groups. And that's where most of the attention really needs to be diverted.
President Trump has a penchant for taking out terrorist leaders. Al-Baghdadi, Soleimani as well. There's, many, many more. Is this one of President Trump? Look, whether you like him politically or not, fine, he rubs people up the wrong way. He can be rude, arrogant, he can be a bully at times. But can we give him his dues on the war on terror?
Well, absolutely. I think we need to see a lot more of this, taking out these leaders and these organizations and dismantling them and their entire apparatus that spreads its tentacles throughout the globe and causes chaos and makes the lives of ordinary civilians completely miserable. An organization like ISIS is just not on our radar in the same way as it was when it was in the Middle East, but is expanding dramatically in the Sahel region. They control an area of over 11,000 square kilometers. They have approximately 12,000 members, as many as 12,000 members. And in many areas, they're basically in de facto control of those areas and just making the lives of everybody completely miserable. These are essentially criminal enterprises that are involved in all sorts of illegal activity, and they're dressed up in this religious language, and they have to be treated accordingly and dismantled accordingly, just as President Trump has done.
Azim, just educate me on ISIS. I thought at one point, maybe in 2018, President Trump said they had been wiped out in Syria, at least. I mean, have they had a resurgence worldwide? What's been going on with the group?
Well, the group has been completely dismantled in Syria, so it certainly downgraded significantly, that they no longer pose a threat. Remember, Ben, that these groups thrive in areas that are very weak governance, that have no governance at all. And Syria, whatever you may think of it, is now trying to revive itself as a proper state, and as well as the other parts of Iraq and Mosul, etc. So they don't have much capacity there. So they look elsewhere. So it's places like in Lake Chad and Sahel and parts of Nigeria, very, very large countries where governance is very weak, where they take root. And so this is what they're looking at. And so whether the connection between the parent company, the original ISIS that we're familiar with, and this new body that's emerged in Sahel is not exactly clear. The US may have access to better intelligence, but it's not clear in the public domain, certainly, how strong that connection is. You have many of these just criminal enterprises swearing allegiance to ISIS simply just to get the extra cachet and the extra kind of fear factor to drive into their opponents. But the actual link is actually can be very tenuous.
Yeah, piggybacking off the ISIS brand, if you will, if we can describe it like that. Azim, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Azim Ibrahim, Chief Strategy Officer at New Lines Institute. Thank you very much. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight, it's been revealed President Trump has a secret letter to J.D. Vance in his desk in the Oval Office, just in case anything untoward happens to him. I've also asked the President's senior advisor about it. Don't miss what he had to say next. This is The Late Show Live. Back in a sec. Oh, well, welcome back to The Late Show Live. The largest children's hospital in America has been ordered to open what's believed to be the world's first dedicated detransition clinic, offering free treatment to reverse the effects of gender transition procedures carried out on children. So where we had the Tavistock Clinic here in the UK, sending children down that dark path, this hospital now in Texas, the Texas Children's Hospital, has agreed now to do the opposite. They've agreed to move towards that process as part of a major settlement with state authorities following a years-long investigation. Under the deal, 5 doctors involved in treatments will be dismissed. So they were previously involved in transitioning kids, basically, while the hospital will pay $10 million for allegedly billing the state's Medicaid program for gender transition procedures prohibited by Texas law. It also marks the latest escalation in the Trump administration's wider crackdown on gender-related healthcare. Stephen Kent, Maddie Smith, this is... Stephen, start with you. This is good news, and I guess, again, as I just mentioned, this is the latest in the administration's attempt to reverse what we saw under Joe Biden, who, by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, used Easter Sunday at the White House to mark it as Transgender Day of Visibility. Am I right in saying that?
I think that's right, and you know, this news out of Texas regarding a detransition facility is good news. It's sad news, but it is something that actually needs to happen, and it develops some expertise around this issue. Gender transition caught on like a contagion between 2016 and at least 2021 seemed to be when it really peaked. And there was a time period where the medical community and the different doctor associations in this country sort of played like they didn't know what the potential risks were going to be. Well, the world changed very rapidly. You know, at this point, there has now been a major settlement for malpractice out of New York in the case of the transgender young person Fox Varian. And the American Society of Plastic Surgeons no longer recommends procedures to their members because the chance for a lawsuit is too high. The nation of Denmark in 2016 recommended hormone therapy at a rate of 67% to young people dealing with gender dysphoria. As of 2022, that dropped off a cliff to only 10% because what we knew was true all along. Hormone blockers have consequences for young people's long-term health, and they are not benign.
Mally, is there any scenario, any circumstance which you'd want to see children in the United States driven towards so-called gender-affirming care?
Well, I think it's a complicated issue in the fact that you have kids who are gender dysphoric who will believe that they're another gender, but then they will get out of their gender dysphoria and they will go along their lives and they will identify as the gender they were born into. There are some kids who are going to identify as trans and they're going to be trans the rest of their life. So I think it's prudent for parents and doctors when you have a kid who is dealing with this, when it comes to the medical options of surgery, hormone replacement, to at least wait till you're 18. I don't think that's something you should jump to first. And, you know, I think Stephen and I have a lot of agreement there that I think far too many doctors just were like, you know, once someone was said they were gender dysphoric, they were like, okay, the full thing we got to do. Yeah. As we got to do, you know, puberty blockers and then eventually surgery. For me, it's, you know, I think what you should do if you're a parent of a trans kid, I mean, parents are going to differ in what they want to do, is affirm their gender identity. But if they come up to the age 18, that's where my cutoff would be and say, like, look, if you want to do these things, let's reevaluate this as an adult. But I think we need to wait and see before you do anything that has lasting implications.
At the end of the day, the issue is that these children who went through this craze of gender transition and mutilating surgeries were never able to consent. And so that is the legal precedent that has now been reset as of this year in the United States. And the United States is playing catch up to the UK, Switzerland, Denmark, and France, who have all gotten wise to this quicker than we have. Again, at least 2 years ago, that the science behind this was always pseudoscience. And a lot of kids have been irreversibly harmed when it comes to their bone development, their mental health, and their brain development and cognition. And those things are never going to return, to say nothing of the mutilating surgeries to genitals and the removal of breasts of children as young as 13. I believe there have been other cases that were worse, but these kids are going to have an opportunity to sue if they want to, and there's going to be a tidal wave in the coming years of lawsuits on that issue, and there's going to need to be a clinic that helps take care of these people.
Yeah, and actually children even younger pumped with hormone blockers, puberty blockers, yes, all sorts. And you call it pseudoscience. I think that's been very generous. I'd call it demonic, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
But you, thank you, Stephen and Mally. Charlie, Stephen there mentioned about how the United States is catching up to the UK on this front. However, I guess with the closure of Tavistock and so on, fine. But I don't think we've seen in the UK yet, correct me if I'm wrong, doctors being dismissed, lawsuits from people who have been subject to these transitioning processes. So maybe I think the US on that front is ahead.
John, I think you're absolutely right. And the key thing about this whole thing is that, you know, that should not have to exist. You know, there should not be a clinic set up anywhere to undo this kind of work, a whole clinic. I mean, it's ridiculous. The whole thing should have been prevented long ago. And the reason why it hasn't been prevented is because you've had either pandering parents or a society where somebody turns up, whether it's, you know, in the UK, for example, he says, I have mild anxiety, therefore you can sign off and receive benefits, or you can just be prescribed antidepressants. There's no real thought to actually what does the patient require? How do I actually deal with the child, because it is a child that we're talking about, who should be incredibly creative. Yeah. Kids should be able to run around and do what they like. They should be able to, you know, put on their mum's high heels or their sister's dresses or whatever, if it's creative. But then if you wake up the next morning and say, Daddy, you know, I think I'm a girl, well, no, that's not the same thing.
Well, that's what my son did, and I said, no, you're not.
But that's not the same thing. But you're absolutely right, because it's nurturing kids to be creative, but also to actually know who they are, to be able to develop as themselves in the bodies that they're born in before they undertake any kind of treatment that shouldn't have to be undone.
Well said. Very quickly, Jack, also, I think that a lot of the trans in kids movement is deeply homophobic in nature because you're telling, a lot of the time, gay kids that they're born in the wrong body simply because they're attracted to the same sex.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, a lot of the sort of LGBT community has said that, especially, you know, if you... Yeah, there used to be things called tomboys. You know, little girls would run around and play in the mud. And I think now, you know, that is now a sign of being in the wrong body. But I will just say, it is interesting to see the shift from Republicans now. I can remember back in the Biden era, a lot of Republicans, again, in places like Texas, for example, were blocking bills that were going against this, regulating these, you know, brutal, you know, pseudoscience, demonic surgery. So it's very, very good that Trump has now, you know, whipped them back into shape.
Okay. Stuart, sorry, push for time. I'll catch up with you on this in the next hour, if you don't mind. Sorry, still ahead on the Late Show Live. What do you make of a Brit topping the polls in America to become the next governor of California? Steve Hilton, David Cameron's former head of strategy. But also tonight, some of the president's top officials are pushing for a major escalation in the Iran war, which could completely change global politics. More on that in a sec. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you to our global community for watching and listening to GB News. We're not only the #1 news channel in Britain, we're chosen by you around the world.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bo, they are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now, they are throwing things up the cars. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning, happy Sunday, hope you're well. Live from London tonight, this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America. Britain fights back. Sir Kier Starmer and David Lammy brands the Unite the Kingdom rally divisive and frightening, but are they deliberately smearing patriotism?
Here to try and get the government to listen to the people, because that's all we want. That's all we want. We want people to listen to the people.
Elsewhere, from Downing Street to Sacramento, ex-Tory strategist Steve Hilton could soon become one of the most powerful politicians in America, leading an economy larger than Britain's. And to the Middle East, Gulf gamble. Trump allies reportedly want the UAE to seize an Iranian island as the Middle East war escalates.
Let them have a nuclear weapon, or you'd have problems like nobody would believe.
I'm Ben Leo, and this is The Late Show Live. Good morning to you. Joining me this evening in London is my panel, political commentator Charlie Rowley, Labour councillor Stuart Fawcett and the journalist Jack Hadfield. And in DC, political commentator Stephen Kent and Democrat strategist Mally Smith. Hello, boys. Thank you for your company. Now, I did promise to explain why I'm not with you chaps in DC tonight. And the panel have been asking, actually viewers as well and listeners, have been asking why I'm here and why maybe my suit doesn't quite fit. The answer is, long story short, I was meant to be flying to DC today at midday at Heathrow. I was on the tarmac. The walkway, what do they call it? The air bridge was stuck on the plane, so they couldn't release it. That took an hour, so we were sat on the runway at Heathrow. Finally, they sorted it, and then we were taxiing towards the runway. I was still going to make the show at this point. I would have got to DC just in time. And then the evacuation slides on the side of the plane, one of them popped out as we were going towards taxi. And that took another 2 or 3 hours. So I was stuck on the plane and thought, there's no way I'm making this flight now. It was rearranged to 7 p.m, so absolutely no...
They let you use the slide to get off.
No, I wish.
So you could get here in time.
I had to be escorted out of Heathrow. I don't know if viewers or listeners have ever tried to leave an airport after going through immigration. Boarding a plane, getting off, or even before. You have to be escorted out of the airport, and they only escort people out once an hour. So I had to wait an hour to be escorted out. It was a nightmare.
You're not going to miss the opportunity for the irony there, are you, Ben?
What's that?
It's very hard to get through.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's a struggle, it's a battle to get out of the UK. But, yeah, here I am. So that's why I'm in London tonight. Delighted to be here back in the studio. And, by the way, the reason for, as Jack has questioned, the reason for the ill-fitting suits is because it's not my attire. My suits are in DC, so I had to rummage into the GB News makeup room and see whatever I could get.
Lost property. Right,
yeah.
It's like lost property at school, isn't it? Sort of, PE.
Yeah, if you've got your gym guy in year 10.
So when you do PE and you've forgotten your kit, so you get given, as Andy Burnham showed us this week, his running, his short shorts.
Well, he's definitely running, isn't he?
I'm glad he's not good at his pants and vest.
Yeah, oh, goodness me. Well, mate, there's still time for me to get to my pants and vest. No, that's not. Right, let's move on, shall we?
Don't threaten us with a good time, will you?
That's for the post-show.
On that bombshell. Right, alternative career beckons. Let's kick off this hour with a GB News alert. Just for a second, I want you to compare Britain's Prime Minister with California's Governor. One runs a country, struggling to grow, struggling to build, struggling to keep the lights on. The other, well, he runs a state with 40 million people and the 4th largest economy on Earth, an economy far bigger than Britain's. And tonight, the front runner to take over California he has just, in recent years ditched his citizenship. He's British. Steve Hilton, he's British at heart, he's still got an accent. A former Downing Street insider, Steve Hilton is now running to lead the most powerful state in America. He was David Cameron's former head of strategy. He's been here, he's worn the T-shirt. President Trump has also thrown his weight behind him with an endorsement, claiming California is a state that's gone to hell. And this story is also quite relevant to Britain too, because what does it say about the state of the left when a British former Tory advisor suddenly looks more appealing to voters than the Democrats who have run California into the ground for decades? Doesn't that sound rather familiar to what's happening here in Britain? My panel are here with me now, Jack, Charlie and Stuart. Charlie, are you familiar with Steve Hilton? Used to work for Cameron.
He did,
in the 2010s, head of strategy.
Yes.
He's now leading the polls to become the next governor of California, a Republican, no less.
Well, there's chance for us all, isn't there, former Tory advisors? I mean, that could be the path that I follow. I don't think I'll be going to California, although I'd love to go. I've never been before. But he's only done it because of his belief. And that's all it is. He's an authentic guy. He is very clear in his communications. He knows what he stands for in California. He's targeted the right issues that matter to local people in that state. And call me old-fashioned. I know that's an old-fashioned way of doing politics, but it cuts through. It matters to people. Local politics matters. And he's been the only one, it seems, as you say, on the back of decades of that state being driven into the ground by the Democrats, he's been able to pick up that mantle and say, look, even I'm not originally from your state, but I love it so much and I believe in it, and here's what I think all the issues are, and people are getting behind it. And this started off as a really small campaign that has grown and grown and grown as time has gone on, and now he's got the support, as you say, of the President of the United States.
How was he rated in Downing Street under Cameron?
Steve Hilton.
Be honest.
Steve Hilton was someone who was very thoughtful about a lot of things. And when you have to be thoughtful, you can be a little bit creative, but some people might have thought that was a bit too creative. So traditional Tories, what you might now think, maybe people that are now voting Reform, would have wanted the Cameron era to be a bit more conservative. They thought it was a bit too conservative liberal. That's why we ended up in that's why Cameron didn't win an overall majority in 2010. And a lot of the blame of that was given to Steve Hilton because of the perhaps not being as a conservative enough strategy to win that election, which is why he ended up in a coalition.
Too much hoodie hugging from Steve Hilton. Hug a hoodie.
Yeah, hug a hoodie, green, energy, changing the logo of the Conservative Party, which was, Margaret Thatcher's sort of torch of liberty. That's what the Conservative Party always stood for. It turned into a green tree. Things like that.
Sure.
He was there to detoxify the Conservative Party, which made it electable again, but it just didn't quite get over the line, which he, I think, carried the can for, wrongly in my view, because he's obviously gone on to do some great things in California.
Well, yes, Jack, he seems quite conservative now. He had a show on Fox News before running for governor of California. He says all the right things and he's leading the polls.
Yeah, no, it is crazy to see somebody who went from being satirised as Stuart Pearson on The Thick of It, the most liberal, hippy-dippy, tree-loving, oh, yes, and ho, if you remember that, let's ban the internet. So it was like, what are you talking about? So it's very funny to see. It seems that he's not had a Damascene conversion, but he's slowly changed over time. I don't know what it is about going to America. I think you've seen it. Douglas Carswell as well has become far more right-wing by living in the States. I don't know what that means for there, but I do just want to add something on in terms of the state of California, in that we're seeing also Spencer Pratt running for the LA mayor, obviously as a Republican. He's sort of doing very well in the polls right now, and he's running on crime, local issues. This is the homeless people there, and he's getting a lot of Democrat support. So it's crazy to think that California may end up with a Republican governor and a Republican mayor of Los Angeles anytime soon.
And Spencer Pratt, he was a reality TV guy, wasn't he?
Exactly, yeah. The Hills.
Stuart, Anona has said on your side, don't forget Cameron claimed he was the heir to Blair and Hilton was the policy guru behind significant parts of their policy regime, as Charlie alluded to. Are you familiar with Steve Hilton?
Not very well, to be honest. I mean, I think a part of the undoing of the Cameron era was that sort of assumption of the heir to Blairism, but not necessarily doing the foreign policy work and the investment that needed to carry on that kind of legacy. But I think when you look at America at the moment, this is a really interesting turn in California. I was out there at Christmas, and I was out in San Diego, actually, and the Democrat tradition runs pretty deep there. It's almost in the blood with the lifestyle and the vibes of California. So I think that would be quite monumentous to turning over. But when I was there, Politico on tour, walked outside of a mall, and there was a group of people running a campaign on essentially kind of like voter ID, essentially. They were worried about people voting for other people who perhaps were dead or didn't exist. And I was having a conversation with them, and there seems to be some agitation going on there. Perhaps California, like a lot of other places in the UK or Europe, may feel that it's been taken for granted by one particular political party.
What does this say about the state of the left?
I would argue whether the Democrats are on the left of the political spectrum necessarily, but
you don't think the Democrats are on the left?
Oh, come on!
You must be joking.
Surely,
I'm not sure about that.
Maybe not in the economy,
I wouldn't judge it on the same scale.
Have you got whiskey in them?
It's too late.
I'll have what you're having.
No, but
are they on the far left or not left enough?
I mean, I think
they're lunatics.
Yeah. No, I think what you've got there in terms of social campaigns that have been furthered by the Democrats are quite, woke liberal esque. But I think where they are economically is probably where the Conservative Party have been in the UK for quite a long time. Where I think I think probably the social campaigns that they've championed have really lost them their vote there. And I think from my perspective, what I learned out there, a quote to me was, these woke guys have just gone mad, and like, where is this? It's not liberalism anymore, like traditional liberalism that might have been embraced. This has just gone to a whole new extreme. They're not listening to reason and reality, and I think that's where it's sliding on the social campaigns that they're taking on.
And it could be in California that they get two Republicans in the final two. Chad Blanco, who's I think he was a sheriff, who is maybe third in the polls behind a Democrat, but Steve Hilton attacks his Republican counterpart by calling him, what does he call him? Anyway, he took the knee during Black Lives Matter and so on, so that's his attack game. Before I go to my Washington panel, I just want to play this clip from when I sat down with Steve Hilton a few months ago. Take a look.
It's just bullshit, right? And that's what you got going on in California, just coming out of our ear. I remember seeing the mayor of LA with the BLM mob outside his house saying, take a knee, and he did it there in the street. I remember thinking, that is one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
To bend the knee to the mob.
Well, Kier Starmer did it as well. There's no clips of you taking the knee back in 2020, 2021.
If you find them, then please let me know. I'm very confident you were. Of course you're going to get a response that says, we're sick of this and we want change. And they elected a Labour government that seems to be an utter disaster on every front. Kier Starmer, totally useless.
Let's get the thoughts of my Washington panel, Stephen Kent and Mally Smith. Mally, what's your thoughts on Steve Hilton? I questioned him during that interview. I said, do you fear that maybe because you are previously British, he renounced his citizenship, but he's still got he's a Brit, isn't he? He's got a British accent. I said, do you think that may be a problem for Americans? But he said, well no, Arnie was a Republican governor and he's Austrian, so no.
Ben, I hate to be the bringer of bad news to you guys.
Don't do it to me, Mally.
You guys seem to really love this conservative Brit who's running for governor. There is no way this guy is going to be governor of California. It is a very blue state. It's looking like it's going to be a pretty blue year. The generic ballot has Democrats up 4 to 6 points. And the reason he is currently leading in the polls, and he's not leading in all the polls, some polls have Javier Becerra, the HHS secretary for Biden, leading, is that you have 2 Republican candidates and you have like 8 Democratic candidates. So you're splitting up the Democrat vote 8 ways. And not only that, in most of these polls, Steve Hilton is getting around 19 to 20% of the vote. Now, let's assume that in a general election, it's him versus Becerra. He gets the 12% that Chad Bianco has. That gets him to about 32%. Let's give him 8 more. Let's say he gets to 40%. That's 40% of the vote. I hate to just break it to you guys, he's not winning.
Yeah.
And Spencer Pratt is also not winning the mayor of LA. We are a very partisan country, and the D and the R on your name dictates a lot, and it's not happening.
Yeah, I also am not going to get too excited about this. I love Steve Hilton. He was on Fox News from 2017 to like 2023, a great show called Next Revolution. But this is a jungle primary or a jungle election in California where all of them are running at the same time, and it's the top 2 vote getters. Now, you could have a possible scenario in which Steve Hilton does survive by being one of the top 2 vote getters next to Javier Becerra or, God forbid, Katie Porter, who is a total nut job. But then the Democratic vote is going to consolidate. All of the support that is spread between 8 Democrats will pour to the one Democrat, and it's over. It's over. So there are moments where Steve Hilton's going to look like he's being competitive, but it's an illusion.
And to jump off Stephen's point there on the jungle primary, there's also a world where 1 or 2 of these Democratic candidates drop out, and you see a surge for Steyer and Becerra, and that your man Steve Hilton doesn't even make the ballot, and that it's 2 Democrats against each other. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen because Democrats need to get their act together, and some of these lower polling people need to drop out of the race. But he might not even be on the ballot.
Okay, Stephen,
I feel like we've ruined your guys' night, but...
Well, yeah, you're not coming back on. Stephen, why is... You mentioned one of the other Democrat candidates was a nut job. Who is she, and why is she a nut job?
Katie Porter. What was her role previously?
She was a congresswoman.
Congresswoman of California. She was just one of the mask and gender radicals, but she is particularly well known for her temper and for berating and screaming at her staff. There's a really horrible viral video where a staffer walked behind her on a Zoom call and she just started screaming bloody murder at this person for daring to be in her shot. And there have been accusations of domestic violence as well against her husband. So these are all touchy issues. I don't think things are going to go well for her.
Steve and I are agreeing a lot. I also think she's crazy.
I remember, consensus. I remember seeing that video. It was quite disturbing, actually. Mally, somebody on your say has said, Anona has said, Arnold Schwarzenegger was the Republican governor of California from 2003 to 2011. Blimey, was it that long? It's not that Democrat, says Anona. It's just been hijacked in the last decade or so by the radical left. Is that fair, Mally?
I mean, you got to win elections to do this hijacking. I mean, yeah, there was a governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He also was one of the most famous people in the world, and he won at a time when the U.S. was less partisan. You saw more diversity where you would have governors that would be politically different than the way the state voted presidentially. Now that's not the case. You have a state, if it votes for Trump for president, they're going to elect a Republican governor. The same as vice versa. With Democrats, if they voted for Harris, they're going to elect a Democrat. Only in a few swing states, like Stephen and I's home state of North Carolina, do you sometimes see an aberration. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of the most popular movie stars in the world, and he ran against a weak Democrat. Again, the Your Say people can be depressed about this, but I don't think he's winning.
I don't think they're that depressed. I don't think really Paul or Lee or Anona in Burnley, Bogner and Worthing care who really is the governor of California. I mean, still Hilton's a nice guy. But Stephen, one last question to you. Paul has said, good morning, Paul. California is the richest state in America, so why are they always almost going bankrupt all the time? Is it because the lefty politicians always run out of other people's money, spending it on BS policies?
Well, yes, I suppose that is. I mean, America has the same problems nationally that California is really a great reflection of those problems on the state level. Massive amounts of health care and welfare spending, but also just really, really frivolous social projects. There was a really awful report just this week in City Journal about the hundreds of millions of dollars being spent in the California penal system to provide iPads to prisoners and people on death row, which has given prisoners in serving long sentences access to pornography and instant messaging to children. And they've also been building podcast studios in California prisons to produce shows for people behind bars. I kid you not, I spent some time listening to one of them this week. So this is just kind of an example of a state that spends big and they are not able to pull in the revenue that they need.
That is crazy. I need to look into that, Stephen. But on the spending and not having enough money, California has a balanced budget amendment. So they always balance their budget. They're not in a debt or deficit. They might spend it on stupid things. I got to look into this prisoner podcast.
I saw the podcast.
They're not in debt. But they're not in debt because they have to balance the budget legally. Only the U.S. federal government gets to spend as they like.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I've been round the depths of Tenderloin in San Francisco. I've seen that place. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if that's how a Democrat city ends up, I'd vote for Hilton every time if I was California.
$20.
Right. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Melanie. What are you saying, Charlie?
$20. Hilton does it. Come on.
$20?
I'll bet, yeah.
He could do. I spoke to him. He seems to think...
That's a lot of money in pounds now.
Yeah. He seems to think there's a way, so he knows more than me. Right, still ahead on the Late Show Live. It's been revealed that President Trump has a secret letter to J.D. Vance. It's not a love letter. It's in case anything happens to him, God forbid. And I've asked the President's senior advisor about it. What's in the letter? Where's it kept? But also tonight, Andy Burnham has outlined how he would change Britain, and there are some stark proposals in what might just be classed as his first manifesto. Is that an Everton top? It doesn't matter. I think it's Everton. Anyway, it's the Late Show Live. Back in a sec. Start with a GB News alert. The Iran war could be about to see a major escalation. President Trump's top advisors are reportedly encouraging the UAE to escalate its role in the conflict and seize one of Tehran's strategic Gulf islands. According to The Telegraph, senior US officials are urging the UAE to take control of Lavan Island. It's a vital Iranian oil hub, allegedly targeted in covert Emirati strikes earlier this year. One official reportedly said, "Go take him. It would be UAE boots on the ground instead of US." Well, the revelations come as the war accelerates in a dramatic fashion, with the UAE moving closer to Israel and Washington against Iran as regional alliances rapidly shift. With me now is senior fellow at the America First Policy Institute, Ken Timmerman. Ken, great to see you on the Late Show Live. What's your take on what we've heard? The UAE may be taking a more significant role in this conflict.
Well, the UAE has been taking a more significant role. It hasn't been reported until recently. They had airstrikes against Lavan Island in April. It only was reported a couple of days ago. They have also been meeting with Israeli officials. Both the director of Mossad and the Israeli prime minister reportedly went to the United Arab Emirates. But this report about a unnamed U.S. official telling them to go get him in Lavan Island, I'm sorry. I've seen way too many reports like that in the American fake news to believe it. I would like to see who this unnamed official is, and I don't know anybody at the White House who says go get him to somebody senior in the government of the United Arab Emirates.
Tell us, please, about Lavan Island. It's described as Hidden Pearl Island. Why is it so strategic? What is there?
It's a oil refinery on the island. It is closer to Karg Island than it is to the Strait of Hormuz. This is also why it's a little bit bizarre. The United Arab Emirates has never, to my knowledge, conducted an amphibious landing exercise. To my knowledge, they have never used their special forces in a major operation to conduct an offensive operation to seize and hold territory. This would be really unusual. They have a small land force. By the way, though, the UAE Air Force is the size of Britain's Air Force. They have 150 strike fighters. So let's not underestimate their military capability. But Special Forces is not kind of up there. It would be more likely for them to conduct more airstrikes, which they have already done.
Just talking about the looking at the markets, Ken, crude oil up to $105 a barrel now. It was something like 90 last week. Very volatile. It goes up and down. Is there at any point, do you think, and by the way, gas in the US may be nearing towards $5 a gallon. Is there at any point which President Trump will start paying more attention to the markets and to gas prices?
The president has been paying attention to this all along. He's been paying attention to gas prices, to the stock market prices, to relations with Russia, relations with China. He's been paying attention to all of this. He's playing five-dimensional chess. By the way, I'd remind our viewers that in 2014, when the only international crisis was an international referendum in Crimea, which Russia claimed to have won, and then Russia moves into Crimea, oil on the international markets in today's prices was $156 a barrel. So oil prices are actually relatively low, especially given the type of international crisis we are in today.
Yeah, and also President Trump as well, the last couple of days saying that he would axe federal tax on gas, which may or may not be done. I mean, is that a good move from the president to try and ease the pressure on US consumers?
Yeah, I don't know whether he'll do that. That's one of his tools. Several states have done that as well. I don't think this is going to last that long. And the president has said, and I happen to believe it, that once the conflict is over and the Iranian regime is decimated, which is what I think has to be the result of this. It's not just that you have a third level or fourth level of leadership, but they decimate the leadership and they recognize that they've been defeated. And that's what's not happened yet. Okay, let's be clear about this. War is about convincing the enemy that they have lost, and we have not convinced the Iranian regime that they've lost. So we need to go back to kinetic strikes. I think that's what the president is going to do very shortly, and I think those strikes will be brutal. I think they will be sweeping. I think they will have widespread consequences, not just to the regime, but to the Iranian people, and they will be aimed at convincing the Iranian people as well as the regime that there's no way that they can possibly win, that the United States has won the war, and it's time to get rid of the regime.
Ken, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. As always, Ken Timmerman there on The Late Show Live. Let's get the thoughts of Lisa Daftari, Editor-in-Chief at the Foreign Desk. Lisa, good morning. Thanks for your company once again. Tehran is apparently planning tolls in the Strait of Hormuz, and the president warning of a, quote, very bad time. I guess the question now is, after weeks of threats to sort of wipe them off the face of the earth and warnings of very bad times, when is he going to see through with escalated violence?
Probably very soon. So there's a few things going on here in terms of rhetoric and then action. So the war, as we saw it from February 28th, obviously Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump, they have maintained that we have achieved a lot of the goals that were set out from the beginning to achieve. Obviously, the quote was 4 to 6 weeks. We are beyond those parameters right now, but they wanted to give diplomacy a chance. Diplomacy did not work. What we're watching right now is Donald Trump set the stage to justify, again, going back to kinetic action, to continue to degrade this regime. What people have to understand, and perhaps has not been communicated well to people regarding this war, is that we're dealing with an enemy that is very unique in nature. This is a terror organization. They operate just like their proxies, right? Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, but they are running a country with a military, a country with what could perhaps be a robust economy, which is now in shambles, but has a very respectable size of drones and missiles depots, and it goes on, enriching uranium, and in terms of going forward with this enemy, what we do have to understand is, for them, mere survival, hanging on, enduring, staying in the game will mean victory. So the foregone conclusion that we've been hearing from Donald Trump more recently, especially on the tail end of his trip from China, is that we do need to go back to kinetic action for them to understand. Look at where we started and where we are. The strategic imperative of the United States is that this regime cannot have a nuclear weapon. That means zero tolerance for nuclear capability. But the regime has masterfully pivoted the conversation to be about Hormuz, about closing Hormuz, about opening Hormuz, about charging tolls, about using this as a lever, and to continue using this as a lever. And what does that show our adversaries? If you have access to a choke point, you can take it hostage. You can exploit the global economy to your will. And that is exactly what needs to be done here. Not only establishing deterrence for the Iran regime, but we know China's watching, Russia's watching, the entire world is watching, and it looks like, again, foregone conclusion is going back to kinetic action.
OK, Lisa, before I let you go, there was another pro-Palestine march today in London, and I saw a few placards talking about Iran and Mojtaba Khamenei and, you know, sort of support for the regime there. What do you make of people taking to the streets and supporting this regime?
I am so glad that you asked this in connection with the war against the Iran regime. If you are watching young people in your country, whether it's here in the United States or in the UK or in Italy or in France and all the other places where we have seen in Canada, these kinds of protests where you have young people who are either born in or now studying in or are benefiting from Western nations that are giving them all of the freedoms that they could ever want, are marching in support of Hezbollah or Hamas or any kind of jihad, just know that that narrative warfare has been launched by Iran's regime. They have paid for it. They have organized it. They have imported it into the West, and they have done it for decades. We are only waking up to it. After October 7th, the curtain has been pulled on this kind of activity, on all of the indoctrination that's been happening at our universities, at all the money that's being poured into this kind of, again, narrative warfare, whether it's coming from social media, whether it's coming from the professors, whether it's elite capture, where they have paid or influenced or indoctrinated people who are in the position of influencing other people, teaching our youth about all of this, what you're watching. They're saying death to America or death to the UK or death to whatever the country they're in while they are benefiting from that country. Where does that come from? That comes exactly, go back to the source. It comes from this regime. Again, it's the entire globe's really duty to get rid of this very, very nefarious actor.
Lisa, thank you. Appreciate you as always. Lisa Zaftari, Editor-in-Chief at the Foreign Desk. We'll catch up soon. gbnews.com/your say. Let's get the thoughts of my panel in London. Stuart, again, I'll mention again, you served in the Royal Navy and you served in and around
Iran.
the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, absolutely. A large part of my career was making sure that we had freedom of navigation through the Straits of Hormuz because of what we're experiencing now, the effect on global oil prices and its supply to Britain and the West. And we've been prepared for 50 years for Iran to do exactly what it wants to do now. It wants to exert influence around the world maliciously upon other states and societies. And in order to bring pressure upon them, it was always going to reserve the right to close the Straits of Hormuz because the economic pressure is untold. I'm actually surprised that we've managed to weather the storm so well in terms of oil reserves. Absolutely. It was always considered that we could have as little as 3 or 4 days natural gas and oil supply coming because it's just-in-time management solutions coming from the Gulf. But so this has always been expected, and there has been a continuity of orthodoxy on how to deal with Iran. Which has missed the main point, which is it is an extremist regime. It does not wish to follow the same diplomatic channels, and it is not a good faith actor. As we've seen the way it treats its own citizens and the way that it tries to exert power around the region using terrorist proxies. And even in the UK, we know that they are funding a lot of the rhetoric behind these pro-Palestine marches that are spreading discontent and creating fear within this country. They're trying to sabotage parts of our society and undermine it by using this type of psychological warfare. But, you know, going back to the conflict at the moment, we need to make sure there is freedom of navigation through the Straits of Hormuz. We're a Western nation, we're a developed nation. We believe in that. We've always stood on that. What do we realistically expect from Iran? Do we think the same regime with its same ideology is going to suddenly say, yes, we're not going to have a nuclear weapon? Are we really kidding ourselves that they're going to agree to that? I mean, really, come on. Are we really going to expect them to stop funding terrorist proxies around the world, including on attacks here in the UK? No, they are not.
So you support Trump on this, then?
I am not. I have a realistic outlook that the orthodoxy in the way we have dealt with Iran has not worked. We've spent a lot of money trying to contain it. What we do need to do is have an endgame. As we saw with Syria, also was involved with Syria in the early days when there was military action. We were literally deciding on military action in Syria. And the assessment that I was part of was there was no political solution to Syria at the time. And the lesson from Syria is that Assad hung on for a very long time because there wasn't a coherent military one that led into a legitimate political opposition. And that is what we do face with Iran. There is no alternative regime that can go in and have that legitimacy.
The exiled Crown Prince, Reza Pahlavi is the name that they sing on the streets.
I think we need to consider about... I mean, he said he doesn't want to be the political leader of Iran, but would oversee a transition.
Yeah.
But I think we need to look to the legitimacy of having done that. And at the end of the day, it's up to the Persian people what they want to do. And I think we need to have that conversation very clearly. But the situation is, Iran is a threat to the West. Sorry, not Iran, that's not right. The IRGC and the extremist regime that took control of Iran is a threat to the West.
Okay.
Economically as well, as we're seeing.
Jack?
Yeah, I think with this entire conflict, I think Trump is